that, ladies and gentlemen. A very, very good morning to everyone. Eminent dignitaries on and off the dais, distinguished guests, industry leaders, members of the financial community, representatives from the government and regulatory institutions, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a very, very warm welcome to the World Environment Day Summit 2026 on the theme Capital Markets as the Gateway of Climate Finance in India. Ladies and gentlemen, the summit is being jointly convened by the National Stock Exchange of India and FICCI Center for Sustainability Leadership to spotlight how India's capital markets are accelerating climate action and unlocking sustainable growth opportunities. Before we proceed, can we have a huge round of applause for our dignitaries also who've just entered? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as the world navigates the challenges of climate change, the role of financial markets in mobilizing capital for sustainable development has become more important than ever. Today's discussions will explore how innovative financial instruments, disclosure frameworks, and investor engagement can strengthen India's climate finance ecosystem. Before we proceed, I request everyone to kindly rise for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you. I request everyone to please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, to formally commence today's proceedings, we begin with a traditional lamp lighting ceremony symbolizing knowledge, hope, and a collective commitment towards a sustainable future. May I respectfully invite our esteemed dignitaries forward. Please help me in welcoming Shri Ashish Kumar Chauhan, MD and CEO of the National Stock Exchange of India. I welcome, sir. Along with him, I invite, please help me in welcoming Shri Prabodha Acharya, Co-Chair, FICCI Environment and Climate Change Committee and Group CSO of JSW Group. Very, very warm welcome. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Mukund Rajan, the Chairman, eCube Investment Advisors and Chair, BRICS Business Council Task Force on ESG and Green Finance. Very, very warm welcome. Please help me in welcoming the Chief Financial Officer and Chief General Manager at SEBI, Shri Deepak Trivedi. We have here with us Sector Head, Maharashtra Institution for Transformation, Mitra, Government of Maharashtra, Shri Ajay Saxena. Present here with us, I would like to invite the Director, Sustainability, Hindustan Unilever, and founding team, FICCI Center for Sustainability Leadership, Shri Prashant Venkatesh. Please help me in welcoming the MD and CEO of HDFC Asset Management Company Limited, Shri Navneet Munot. We have here with us the Executive Vice President, Head Sustainability, Power and Carbon Markets, Listing and Social Stock Exchange, NSE, Dr. Harish Ahuja. Let's welcome, sir. I request the dignitaries to please do the honors.
वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ
वक्रतुंड महाकाय
निर्विघ्नं
after the
कुरु
photo
मे
opportunity,
देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा
thank you. I request the dignitaries to please be there. Ashish sir, Harish sir, I request all of you to please be on the stage because we'll be having the green certificate presentations. I request the dignitaries to please be there just for one more minute. As part of our commitment to environmental stewardship and in celebration of World Environment Day 2026, we are pleased to present a green memento to our esteemed dignitary, which symbolizes a gift of trees that have been planted in the name of Shri Trivedi sir. So I request Shri Ashish Kumar Chauhan and Shri Prabodha Acharya sir to present it to Shri Trivedi sir. Shri Deepak Trivedi sir, I request you please come forward. Yes, I request the certificate, the green certificate to be presented. I request the green certificate to be presented. Sorry. Green. Shri Deepak Trivedi ji's certificate. Yes. We apologize for that. Yes. Yes. And we would also like to present the certificate to Shri Ajay Saxena ji, the Sector Head, Maharashtra Institution for Transformation, Mitra. And with that, thank you so much. I request the dignitaries to please take their seats. Thank you. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I would first say, for the opening address, I would like to invite the leader. But before that, we'll just be having our dignitaries to please come to the dais and take their seats. Yes. Can we have a huge round of applause for our dignitaries while they're coming on stage and gracing the occasion? Thank you. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have here with us Shri Prabodha Acharya, who is the co-chair at FICCI Environment and Climate Change Committee and Group Chief Sustainability Officer at JSW Group. He is a transformative sustainability leader whose career reflects a deep belief that business has the power, has the responsibility to shape a more resilient and equitable world. With over 30 years of impact across continents, industries, and cultures, he has emerged as one of India's most respected champions of environmental stewardship, climate action, and sustainable business transformation. Under his robust leadership, JSW's diverse businesses spanning steel, energy, cement, infrastructure, and paints are steadily integrating sustainability into the heart of strategy, culture, and operations. So, without further ado, for the opening address, I request Shri Prabodha Acharya to please, address this August gathering.
Thank you for generous introductions and calling me to open. Good morning, distinguished guests, those who are in the dais, industry leaders, and colleagues. It is really a privilege to welcome you all to this important gathering on the World Environment Day. And I think I really thank FICCI and NSC for bringing together such a distinguished set of stakeholders today in this lovely auditorium. Today's theme is capital market as the gateway of climate finance in India. Could not be more timely. We stand at a defining moment in India's growth story. India's development aspirations are accelerating, and so is the urgency to transition to a low-carbon, climate-resilient economy. this transition is not incremental. It requires structural transformations across sectors and importantly across financial systems. The scale of investment requires, it runs to hundreds of billions of dollars over the coming decades. And this is where capital markets must play a catalytic role. Traditionally, sustainability was seen through the lens of compliance or reporting. And I have in this field for last more than 3 decades now, I can tell. Sustainability always looked as a cost center in the organizations. But today, it is increasingly shaping capital allocation, risk pricing, and enterprise strategy. Capital markets are uniquely positioned to channel large-scale financing towards green and transition investments, reward credible climate strategy through valuations and investor confidence, and drive transparency and accountability through disclosures and standards. We are already seeing early momentum across India's business, that growth of ESG-linked or sustainability-linked instruments and green bonds are increasing. Increasing integration of climate risk in investment decisions across, and specifically the manufacturing sector, and emergence of framework like BRSR, TCFD, TNFD is accelerating. But this is only the beginning. India has a distinct opportunity to leapfrog into a globally competitive, low-carbon industrial base. To achieve this, we must develop credible transition finance frameworks, specifically for hard-to-abate sector where from I come. Strengthen taxonomy clarity to guide the investors. Expand the ecosystems for innovative financing instruments, but trust through high-quality, auditable disclosures. If we set this right, India can become a global leader in mobilizing climate finance at scale. From an industry perspective, we see sustainability not as a constraint, but as a strategic business driver. This transition to greener operations enhance long-term competitiveness, and I see increasingly business are eager to use sustainability as a competitive advantage, strengthen their access to the capital, and build stakeholder trust. However, it also requires patience capital, policy alignment, and market confidence, all of which capital markets can enable this. So my call to action, going forward, collaboration is the key. And we need closer alignment between regulators, industry, financial institutions, and standard setter to scale credible transition finance. Avoid fragmentations of standards and ensure just and inclusive transition pathways. So on this World Environment Day, let us all reaffirm that sustainability is not a parallel agenda. It is central to India's economic future. And on this eve, I'm very delighted to share that on this occasion of World Environment Day 2026, FICCI is planting trees in the name of every delegate participating in this summit as part of the Government of India's Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam campaign. Launched by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam is a unique national movement that encourages citizens to plant a tree in honor of their mothers, symbolizing the values of care, nurturing, and responsibility that are central to both family and nature. The campaign has inspired widespread participation across the country and has become a powerful expressions of India's commitment to environmental conservation and sustainable development. In fact, in our group, we have committed to plant more than 10 million trees by 2030. And this year, we are trying to plant by a million trees. FICCI is proud to align itself with this visionary initiative and contribute to the Government of India's efforts toward expanding green cover, restoring ecosystems, and fostering a culture of environmental responsibility. Standing in this house, I must say that business depends on nature, and nature doesn't depends on business. The global GDP, 40 to 50% of global GDP is dependent on directly on nature. So we must take care of the nature so that nature takes care of us. And through the planting of trees, in the name of all the delegates today you are present, we seek to create a lasting environmental legacy that reflects our collective commitments to climate action and greener future. With that, I look forward to the discussion ahead and wish the summit very success. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing those insights with us and for telling us the importance of climate action. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce our other dignitary who's be coming and giving a speech. We have a technocrat from Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Bombay, and Indian Institute of Management, IIM Calcutta. He was part of the founding team of NSE. He's credited with setting up the first screen-based trading in the country, mobile trading, mutual fund distribution through exchanges, markets for SME shares, satellite telecom, the Nifty index, equity derivatives trading, and many other developments in the Indian stock markets. We have here with us the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the National Stock Exchange of India, Shri Ashish Kumar Chauhan. Can we have a huge round of applause for sir, please?
Shri Prabodh Acharya, Co-Chair, FICCI Environment and Climate Change Committee, Dr. Mukund Rajan, Chairman, eCube Investment Advisors, Shri Deepak Trivedi, Chief General Manager, SEBI, Shri Ajay Saxena, Sector Head, Mitra, Shri Prashant Venkatesh, Director, Hindustan Unilever, Shri Navneet Munot, Dr. Harish Ahuja, distinguished guests from the regulatory, corporate, and investment communities, friends from FICCI, colleagues, and fellow participants. World Environment Day is at the heart a day of collective resolve, a reminder that the choices we make today shape the world we inherit tomorrow. And this year, that resolve carries a new dimension. It carries the force of law. There is a principle in jurisprudence that a unanimous verdict carries special weight. In July 25, the International Court of Justice ruled that states have an obligation to protect the environment and the climate system from anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions, and that they can be held legally responsible for failing to do so. Climate obligations have moved from the realm of political commitment to the domain of legal accountability. For companies, investors, and capital markets, the implications are clear. Climate risk is no longer merely reputational or regulatory. It is in the fullest sense a legal and financial risk. The question before us is not whether to respond. That question has been settled. The question is whether our institutions are equipped to respond with the requisite speed and rigor. For India, sustainability has never been a borrowed concept. From the Vedas to movements like CHIPCO, the understanding that economic progress and ecological balance must advance together is civilizational. What is changing today is the speed and structure of that commitment. India is committed to net zero by 2070, requiring over $10 trillion across three phases, $2.5 trillion up to 2030, $4.5 trillion between 2030 and 2047, and $4 trillion thereafter across power, mobility, and infrastructure. Progress is already visible. By end 25, India's non-fossil installed capacity has risen to 51.9%, up from 32.5% in 2014, crossing the 50% milestone more than 5 years ahead of its Paris target. India ranks third globally in solar installed capacity and fourth in both wind and total renewables. The carbon credit trading scheme has been operationalized. Greenhouse gas emissions intensity targets now cover 490 obligated entities, and the Union Budget 26-27 has allocated 20,000 crore over 5 years to carbon capture, utilization and storage across emission-intensive sectors. These are not aspirations, they are actions, and they are consequential. I've always believed that ultimately, whatever we do, whatever we teach, has to become profitable. Then the money flows. And that's where last year, NSE alone raised 3.5 billion out of almost $19 billion in green finance. Why? Is because the green technologies have now become profitable. And that's why they are sustainable. So fund managers can also give speeches like me. I am not a fund manager, so I don't invest. But finally, they will invest only if it is profitable. It can raise more funds only if it is profitable. And that is where I think today we are at the crux, where many of these climate technologies are now becoming profitable, competitive compared to their peers. And as the cost of oil goes up, you will see them more and more profitable going forward. And that's where there is a good chance that we will be able to accelerate the fundraising for the climate-related technologies and those companies that are going to come in future to raise their funds from NSE. In power markets, electricity futures provide price discovery and hedging for renewable energy producers, involving revenue, certainty, and lowering the cost of capital to the transition. And through the social stock exchange, capital is reaching development projects across afforestation, water conservation, and climate awareness. Rupees 45 crore mobilized across 16 projects so far. The scale is still evolving, but the direction is structural. Through the NSE International Exchange at GIFT City, we offer a well-regulated platform for listing green, social, sustainability-linked, and transition instruments connecting India's climate transition with global capital. As we work toward Viksit Bharat 2047, sustainability must be embedded in how markets function, how companies operate, and how capital is allocated. The frameworks are in place, legislative, regulatory, and institutional. But what remains is execution at speed and at scale, and more importantly, at profits. When that alignment of institutional holds and the evidence suggests it is holding with profit, India will not merely grow, it will grow in a way that endures. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir, for presenting the welcome address. Now, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker. He is the chairman of eCube Investment Advisors. He brings with him a wealth of leadership experience, having served as the Tata Group's first brand custodian, chief ethics officer, chairman of the Tata Global Sustainability Council, and a member of the Group Executive Council at Tata Sons. A respected voice in the ESG and sustainability landscape, he is a member of the ESG Advisory Committee, constituted by the Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI. In the year of India's presidency of BRICS, he chaired the BRICS Business Council Task Force on ESG and Green Finance. With his extensive experience at the intersection of business leadership, sustainability, governance, and responsible investment, he is exceptionally well placed to set the tone for today's deliberations. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming Dr. Mukund Rajan.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and to distinguished dignitaries on the dais and friends, a real pleasure to be with you here today on this occasion of the World Environment Day. So as we celebrate one more World Environment Day, I think it is very clear that now global warming is upon us. With the heat waves we are already experiencing in this country, I think 2026 will be right up there with the hottest years in recorded history. As the UN Secretary General has put it, and I quote, "Our world is at a crossroads and our planet is in the crosshairs." Governments are necessarily having to respond to this challenge, and capital markets, fortunately, are picking up the signals. Take, for instance, the European Union. It has put in place a carbon border adjustment mechanism to deter carbon leakage from imports. Tariffs are therefore being levied on products imported from markets that do not have strong emission controls in place. And consequently, if you take a sector like steel as an example, we're already seeing European steel imports actually begin to shrink. And this is, of course, impacting exporters, including from the steel industry in India. So that's one example of how the markets are now responding to signals from government, but impacting and deciding winners and losers. India also has announced its version of a national carbon market and launched a carbon pricing mechanism based on emissions intensity. And we will need to see how this shapes the competitiveness of Indian industry. An important regulatory tailwind driving change in this regard is, of course, the SEBI mandate to the top 1,000 listed companies to publish business responsibility and sustainability reports, or BRSR reports. And to my mind, this is actually a game changer by driving accountability in the corporate sector, stimulating peer-to-peer benchmarking, and ultimately delivering better performance. The BRSR proposition is also being integrated in mutual fund schemes for ESG investing, which would, of course, cover climate mitigation and adaptation. And while collections so far for all of these schemes put together have tended to remain small, hovering around 10,000 crores, very small for an Indian market as large as we are, I am confident that this will change with more retail and institutional investor awareness and interest. And indeed, capital markets are a key instrument of behavioral change, rewarding companies that are innovating and appropriately pivoting their business models in response to the climate challenge. To take an example, in India, a company like Tata Power that has pivoted almost completely away from coal-fired thermal power to renewable energy has been handsomely rewarded by the market for doing so. And if you take an example overseas, take a company like Tesla, which has shown that early bets on innovation and technology can yield incredible returns. Tesla today is valued more than all of its competition in the United States combined. As innovation blossoms in areas like high efficiency materials, battery technology, biomass to energy, robots and drones for better safety, carbon credits trading, and so on, our capital markets will become indispensable. A recent study by Deloitte places the total climate-linked investment opportunity in India at over $1.5 trillion by 2030. Unsurprisingly, the volume of green equity flotations is therefore substantially increasing, with capital markets helping to reduce financing costs by spreading risk among many more investors and providing long-term funding. On the debt side as well, with the international market for sustainability-linked financial instruments trending now at typically over $1 trillion every year of issuances, more Indian companies are accessing the green and sustainability bonds market. Companies like JSW Steel and Ultratech Cement have been innovative with their sustainability-linked bonds, typically securing incentives worth up to 75 basis points in lower interest costs if they meet, for instance, greenhouse gas emission reduction goals. We will need more such innovation in our domestic market going forward. And to understand the size of the opportunity, we only have to look to our neighboring economies in Asia, China and Korea, whose cumulative green and sustainability bond issuances now surpass several $100 billion each, in comparison with around 60 billion that has been raised by Indian companies over the past decade. Let me now come to the end with a focus on two areas within this evolving landscape that I believe represent both need and opportunity. The first is within this country, the importance of including India's micro, small, and medium enterprises, the MSME ecosystem, within our plans for the future. Over 74 million MSMEs collectively contribute more than 30% of India's GDP and are responsible for roughly 15% of industrial emissions and 25% of industrial energy consumption. And yet, despite the central role, MSMEs receive only a small fraction of green finance flows. The time may be right, therefore, to introduce a simple but powerful financial innovation, namely corporate-backed green guarantee instruments. Given that large corporates at the top of the pyramid possess three assets that MSMEs often lack, namely fairly strong creditworthiness, detailed operational data on supplier performance, and a direct commercial interest in ensuring suppliers remain competitive and compliant, it should be possible for the large corporates to then innovate with green MSME guarantee facilities, working obviously in tandem in partnership with the banks and the NBFC ecosystem. The second area I would touch upon is the importance of cooperation within the global south. In a world where developed countries seem to be currently at least shrugging off their responsibilities to create a well-coordinated and equitable response to global environmental challenges, it makes eminent sense for the developing countries to help each other. As the BRICS president this year, India could well take the leadership in harmonizing sustainable finance taxonomies and standards across the global south with mutual recognition of green, transition, and sustainability-linked instruments. So, ladies and gentlemen, with one of the best developed capital markets in the world, anchored by the National Stock Exchange, an institution that can promote transparency, strengthen sustainability disclosures, facilitate innovative financial products, and unlock capital for climate solutions, I believe India can not only achieve a sustainable transformation of its economy, but also champion the cause of the global south. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing those valuable insights with us. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now our privilege to hear from a leader who has played an important role in shaping India's regulatory framework for sustainable and responsible capital markets. He is the Chief Financial Officer and Chief General Manager at the Securities and Exchange Board of India. He oversees the organization's financial management, treasury and accounts functions, and plays a key role in strengthening institutional governance, financial oversight, and operational effectiveness within SEBI. A seasoned regulatory professional, he has been associated with SEBI for nearly 3 decades, having joined the institution in the year 1996. Over the years, he has contributed to various aspects of regulatory administration and financial management, bringing extensive experience in public financial governance and institutional leadership. So now, to deliver the chief guest address, I invite Shri Deepak Trivedi. Can we have a huge round of applause for sir, please?
Shri Ashish Kumar Chauhan, MD and CEO NSE, Shri Prabodh Acharya, Co-Chair FICCI Environment and Climate Change Committee and Group CSO JSW Group, Dr. Mukund Govind Rajan, Chairman eCube Investment Advisors, Mr. Manoj, the distinguished personality of the Indian mutual fund industry, and distinguished guests and other participants. It's a pleasure to be present here today on the occasion of the World Environment Day 2026. I congratulate NSE and FICCI for organizing this important discussion on capital market as the gateway for climate finance in India. World Environment Day reminds us that environmental sustainability is not merely an logical concern, it is increasingly becoming a financial and economic imperative. The choice we make today will determine the resilience of our economies, business, and communities in the year ahead. As India progresses towards its climate and developmental goals, substantial investment will be required in renewable energy, sustainable infrastructure, clean technology, energy efficiency, and climate adaptation. Mobilizing capital at this scale requires a strong and efficient financial ecosystem with capital market playing a central role. Capital markets serve as a bridge between long-term investors and enterprises seeking resources for sustainable growth. They enable the flow of capital towards projects and business that contributes to environmental and social objective while creating the long-term economic value. In recent years, India has made a significant progress in strengthening the sustainability framework within the securities market. Enhanced disclosure requirement, greater emphasis on ESG reporting, and growing investor awareness have improved transparency and accountability. These measures help investors better understand sustainability related risks and opportunities, enabling more informed decision making. As a market regulator, our objective is to foster a transparent, efficient, and trustworthy market ecosystem that supports sustainable finance while protecting investor interest. Robust disclosure and creditable sustainability information are critical to building investor confidence and ensuring that capital is directed towards genuine and impactful climate initiative. The journey ahead will require a collaboration among regulators, market institutions, issuers, investors, and policymakers. Together, we must continue to strengthen framework that encourage innovation, improve sustainability, reporting, and facilitate the growth of climate finance in India. As a regulator, SEBI has been encouraging all the listed companies to ensure that they, by the voluntary compliance or the regulatory dictate, make definitely disclosure which are important for the sustainable sustainable market. While these rules may be sometimes voluntary in nature or sometimes it may be compulsory by law, but we should encourage the listed companies and the other issuers to come voluntarily to give their share in terms of the investing their amount into the right sustainable product. I really wish today a great success to the valuable insight of the what is emerging from this forum. While we all today are going to speak about what the capital market will be doing, what the market infrastructure institution will be doing, what as an investor will be doing, but this talk will be incomplete unless we all individually also take a pledge that in my day-to-day life, I will do something. A small act I will start doing from today, which will contribute somewhere to the green energy. I would like to share one very small example. And I will say that though I was coming today for this lecture, but I only made one small mistake. Yesterday I gave this printout of my talk which I had typed. And I just told my son that I want a printout of this. And he, like a very tech-savvy guy, he sent it to some shopkeeper. And through the blanket, he called this printout, this 2-page document. Okay. Now, first of all, this printout could have been back-to-back printing, right? But the shopkeeper is so efficient because he wanted to charge me $100 for this 2-page printout. Each page he gave me in the different folder. Each page he gave me in a different folder, and each page was covered by another 2 pages, so that no one can read it. So while we all will be speaking about the kind of what the world should do, I really encourage all of the participants here that you start one small act which you will feel that you are contributing to this. Another small example. I don't know if it's the right platform to share this kind of example, but we go to the restaurants, right? The restaurant serves us food, everything right. And he keeps on changing the plate. For starter, he gives one plate. For main course, he gives another plate. He gives quarter plate, whatnot. Have you ever thought that how much money or how much, not even money, how much water we are wasting for cleaning up all these dishes? Yes, I can afford to pay. But today probably the world is moving towards an area where payment affordability is not the criteria. The criteria is whether it is sustainable. Even a small change of habit that when we go to the restaurant, and stop using quarter plate or keep on not asking the restaurant person to keep on changing the plate. Somewhere not, I'm not sure how much we will contribute. But at the end of the day, when you go home, you feel something you have done for the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your thoughts with us. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce our next speaker. We have here with us the Sector Head of Infrastructure Development and PPP Head at the Maharashtra Institution for Transformation, MITRA, a distinguished infrastructure and public policy expert. With over 3 decades of experience, he has played a significant role in shaping infrastructure financing, public-private partnerships, and project implementation frameworks across the country. His is a highly respected voice on sustainable development and investment-led growth. Now it is my pleasure to invite forward Shri Ajay Saxena to deliver the special address. Let's have a warm welcome for sir, please.
Good morning, everyone. So, I first of all, the people at the dais and the dignitaries here present, I thank you all for inviting me here and presenting something that we have been trying to do towards this cause. So, by now you have heard the kind of investment we require, the kind of mistakes we do, the kind of corrections that we have to do to make things correct. And it is not making things correct again. It is to make the things environment friendly without compromising on the infrastructure or without compromising on the growth of economy. So for the countries like India, it is very much important that we don't only listen to the environment, have to listen to the environment as well without compromising on the growth. When we have to struggle between the two, we have to make compromises. So that is one choice. Either we do compromise or we do some kind of a tools and methodologies adopted by the developers or by the developing agencies that both are blended together and both survive. And it is not both survive, they both just keep making their faster paces. So I can tell you from my experiences in the past 2-3 decades that I've been into this infrastructure development and in the economic development also towards the industrial development. My first decade was for the industrial development. The last 20 years or 25 years is for the infrastructure development. What I saw and what I realized and what is the change. So what I saw is that when we were discussing in the late 90s or early 2000s, the climate and everything till very last decade also, the development officers were very reluctant talking climate because the climate means that the cost is increasing and the growth is, it was considered impediment to the growth. So the growth is at the cost of environment or environment is at the cost of the growth. So how to marry these two things? Then the era of the carbon credits and all those things started, and I saw the buzzwords, the excitement, the people coming and showing the presentations to us, how the carbon credit is doing everything, and then we rarely saw a government organization going and selling the carbon credits into the carbon markets. The maturity, the awareness level, all those things were the factors to this. What I observe now, the observation is that because of the climate financing institutions have coming up well, and they have started taking the approach, reaching out to the development agencies and telling them, I can provide you the fund if you adopt to certain measures, and it is a low cost fund. So that has put to the excitement, put an excitement to the developers. And now I see the compliance or regulatory approach is turning towards the excitement in investment and making it an investment opportunities. How it is happening? It is happening, and which is where this is the forum, and the forums like this are very much required, which is where that the people have to discuss and blend the finance with the climate. And now the people are reaching out to the developers and saying, if it is like you are going to the banker, and if the bankers are giving you 8%, 9%, which is the still very low cost debt institution, we are coming with the climate, and the climate is adding to the cost, but I am lowering the cost of the fund. So that lowering the cost of the fund is making the whole thing possible, and the minds of the development organizations are changing. We in Maharashtra have been doing lots of things, and I'm very happy to listen to Deepak ji that he said that, okay, what the mistakes we are doing and what are we doing. When we come together, we say, okay, this should be done. But what we are doing in Maharashtra, our honorable chief minister was very committed to these cause, and he said that, okay, look at what we can make the difference. So we can make the difference in that, okay, wastewater is getting wasted, and now the treatment plant is coming, and the treatment plant at the best, what they were doing is the treating water and putting it to the river. So we have made a plan that it is now being converted into the reusable water, and wherever the water is not required for drinking and the potable purposes, this treated water should be there. And this is helping two ways. One is that the treated water is put to the economical use, the financial returns are coming from that, this thing, and it is now saving the drinkable water going to the non-drinkable purposes. So without even augmenting the water sources, we are increasing the water quantity for the drinking purposes. So this is the thing, this is a smallest, this is one of the things that we have been doing. Right is the blend of the people. If you can see the dais, it is full of all those people who can make the difference, and all those people put together doesn't mean that all have to do everything. We have to do our own things with the expertise that we carry in our own domain, and everything put together would make the difference in the whole society. So being the government organization and coming from Mitra, which is a Niti Aayog of government of Maharashtra, we are a policy institutions. So we are developing the policies in a manner, policies and the capacity building within the government organizations. We are building those things to create the awareness towards the environment without compromising on the growth. How can it be? I have just spoken that there has to be a financial institutions, there has to be financial instruments which are supporting the cause of environment without compromising or without lowering the expectation on the growth and the development. How it is happening. So earlier the banks and this thing, and then we started, I am the, you can say I am the promoter, not the promoter, I am the passionate practitioner of public-private partnership. I believe that if there is an economic development or a revolution has to come, there has to be with the alternative financing coming into the welfare economics. It is into the constitution mandated the government to do the welfare of the people, but it has to be with the private sector money also. The government alone money cannot do. Even the loans and the multilateral loans, they cannot do. And then it is not only the finance, then the speedier completion of the project and putting it to the people cost is also important. So that is, but then also we realize that it is not enough. Again, the people participation is required. People would participate. Then we saw the bonds. We just have heard the kind of requirement we have to do, the investment we have to do to reach to net zero. If you look at the bond market, if you look at the neighboring countries, even if you look at the slightly better countries in the bond markets, we are way behind. It is only 4,000. Good that we have done more than 4,500 bonds, and then the ESG driven kind of economy more than 11,000 crores. But it is huge. The country like us, even if we are talking about the Atal Setu, it is $2 billion investment on single bridge. So if you are talking about 4,500 or 5,000 crores of investment through the bond or the ESG or the climate financing to the tune of 2,000 crores, it is 12,000 crores is just nothing. Are we depressed? No, we are excited because the gaps create the opportunity for the people to fill, and the sensitivities are there. I can tell you that if you go to the municipal corporations or the commissioners of any regional development authorities like PMRD, MMRD or anybody like that, they now listen to what is the climate, and they will ask you what is the best offer in the financing. I have this bridge to be completed. Then the era of because the Honorable Prime Minister said the municipal financing should come from the municipal, and the municipal bond should also come. The excitement of ringing the bell was there, and I can still see. So the people come up with the bond. And what has happened, what I realize is that the banks and the financial institutions started subscribing. And when they are subscribing, it is only the bank money which is going back to the development, which is where the public money is not coming in. The charity is not sustainable. The philanthropy and the climate will not sustain. I can do the charity only if I have my pocket full of money. So it has to be a profit-making money, which is what you also touched. The profit-making money is the most sustainable and the financial solution. And when it reaches to the people, that becomes sustainable. With the worst of the time behind us, or not behind us, we are still having a difficult time today. Our stock market has responded only, or the adverse effect only to the tune of 12 to 13%. Many people have gone worse on that also, because our small timers, the small investors have increased, and the people have started participating in the stock exchange. That is where NSE has been playing very good role. And when we are talking, when this workshop was organized, and the topic itself says the gateway to the financing, NSE has to see with, so why the people would come if the liquidity is there. So people can't come that my investment is locked for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. They'll go to the PPF, they'll go to many other instruments that are available. But if the bond is created in a manner that it is available to the people and it is tradable, which is now happening, and which is where if the instrument or the policies or the investment opportunities are to be written, it is to be written around this. Then look at the people that you and me within this room, if we start counting our saving accounts, we would have plenty of money to contribute to this, the country's growth. If that money is channelized through the bond or some other instruments, through the capital market where liquidity is there, so that whenever I require money, I can encash my money, even if it is at a fairly lesser loss, no problems, but I require money, but I am able to get my money back. I am buying the land, the money gets locked. I can take minimum 6 to 1 month, 6 months to 1 year to sell the land, and then there are other things of this thing. And buying a land is a risky, buying a share from the market, that too listed in NSE and BSE is very easy. So this is very opportune time, and this is good that the FICCI, and I thank FICCI and NSE to come up with this idea of bringing all those stakeholders. And when we say stakeholders, it is not only 2 or 3%, it is everybody involved, policy makers, the institutional investors, the public, and the NSE, which may represent the people at large. They have brought everybody together within this room, and I think for half of a day we are going to discuss how to make it more easier, and how to what are the expectations from the government. I am here to stay, and I'll be listening. Whatever is required, whatever the best possible things we have to do, we are committed to do it. We are making friendly policies. We are even writing. We have been tying up with the climate financing institutions to create awareness to the development organizations. And also in Mitra, we are coming up with the climatic parametric insurance also. We are linking everything to the climate. That too, again, I'll repeat, without compromising on the growth. So I thank you at the last for giving me the opportunity to speak from here and to listen to the ideas which will be generated here and will be passed on to us and many people like us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your thoughts with us. Ladies and gentlemen, now to deliver the theme address, we have here with us the Director of Sustainability at Hindustan Unilever Limited and member of founding team, FICCI Center for Sustainability Leadership. With extensive experience across sustainability, marketing, sales, brand strategy, and ESG, he has held diverse leadership roles with the Unilever ecosystem. Over the years, he has championed several transformative initiatives focused on waste circularity, sustainable livelihoods, climate resilience, water conservation, and behavioral change at scale. A very strong advocate of collaborative action, his work focuses on demonstrating how sustainability can be embedded into core business operations while creating positive outcomes for people, communities, and the environment. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming Shri Prashant Venkatesh.
Good morning, everyone. I don't know if it's a privilege or a curse to be the last one to speak, but I think today I would consider it a privilege. Very, very wonderful to be here in this audience with all the dignitaries up on stage with all of you. Yesterday, while I was preparing the remarks for today, I went back to June 5th, 2023. 3 years back at this point of time, on World Environment Day, Hindustan Unilever and my colleagues, we partnered with FICCI to set up the FICCI Center for Sustainability Leadership. In the press release post the leadership, there was one paragraph which caught my eye. The ambition of this center is to help accelerate India Inc.'s climate action in line with government's net zero commitments embodied in the Panchamrit framework. The center will aim to institutionalize sustainability leadership across all FICCI members, focusing particularly on a few key topics such as decarbonization and nature-based solutions. Today, with every passing month, it seems to me that that paragraph becomes more and more important. It's not just because of climate change is becoming more and more tangible in all our lives, whether it's hot summers, whether it is water cuts, whether it's extreme weather events, but also recent geopolitical events, which are calling for more and more companies and countries to be more resilient. At HUL, we have constantly seen that sustainability is not a burden, it's actually a catalyst. It can be a catalyst to reimagine the business. It can be a catalyst to reimagine innovation. Having a sustainability mindset actually helps reduce costs. You know, it's as simple as that. You remove materials from your product, you're actually reducing cost. You ask any Indian consumer, any of you in the room will say that's absolutely normal. We've also seen that sustainability helps reduce risk. If we run a big regenerative agriculture program with our farmers, it actually means that we are reducing the risks of our supply chains. Finally, sustainability also helps in future-proofing the business. The best talent in the country, the youngest and smartest people want to work in companies and organizations which actually care not just about the bottom line, but also about the planet. The challenge is this: India wants to grow. Millions, in fact, 1 billion Indians want to have better lives. But all of us recognize that the fact that climate change is here. So what we actually need is more acceleration. So when we went back to the same press release, we actually captured this spirit in the press release as well. This ambitious goal cannot be achieved by a single organization in isolation. A stronger collective push is needed to ensure that we accelerate sustainability. So there's one lesson that we can continue to take away, is that no sustainable action can happen in isolation. We need partnerships. Any progress at scale, whether in a country or a company or society, cannot happen in isolation. It happens through partnerships. We are here at the heart of the Indian financial markets, where we're talking about financial capital. We have some of the smartest people over here, in terms of human capital. We live in Mumbai, which is one of the biggest cities in the world and the heart of social capital. The one thing that can compound all of this capital is actually partnerships and build this for the future. I'm just going to take two strong examples, two programs that we continue to invest in at Hindustan Unilever. One is a very strong program in line with our material action around plastics, and another one which is very, very critical to the city of Mumbai. On plastic circularity, our key action is something called Project Circular Bharat. As India grows, I don't need to tell you this, we need to take more action on material self-sufficiency, whether that's plastics, whether it's textiles, whether it is paper, whether it is metals. The fact that we need to continue to reuse more and more materials is more critical than ever before. Today, Project Circular Bharat is at scale. We are at more than 15 cities. We have 25 partners. Our partners include really large government organizations like Niti Aayog, states like Maharashtra, Delhi, but we also have startups, we have recyclers, we have non-profits. And we continue to scale this program with the single goal of how do we accelerate circularity in India. Today, I can stand here and talk to you about Project Circular Bharat only because 7 years back when we started the program, even for a company like HUL, we needed to find other sources of capital. And that's when SBI came forward and said that we would continue to support the program for a period of 5 years because we believe it's the right thing to do. Without SBI on day one, we wouldn't be here where we can talk about scaling up this program even further. The second program I'd like to talk about is Suvidha, and it's a program very close to my heart. In a city like Mumbai with more than 20 million people, 5 million people just in Mumbai depend on community toilets to access sanitation. So 1/4 of Mumbaikars don't actually have a toilet at home. They depend on a community toilet to use. And community toilets are actually at the front of climate change. Why? Because when water cuts happen because of excessive summers, water gets cut to a community toilet. When flooding happens because of extreme weather events, unfortunately in a low-lying city like Mumbai, community toilets get flooded. We started in 2016 this program called Suvidha, where we said, can we reimagine a community toilet? Why does a toilet only need to be one? Can't it have multiple services? So like any marketing and innovative company, HUL said, okay, look, we'll try and put multiple services under one roof. We took all the lessons from other businesses which we run, and we said, okay, look, beyond a toilet, can we put a shower? Beyond a shower, can we put drinking water? And finally, somebody came up with the idea, why don't we put a washing machine as well? Starting with one center, where the land was given by the government, tomorrow we're actually launching our 25th center, and more than 100,000 people, 1 lakh people every day use a Suvidha center, which basically gives them access to clean toilets every single day, and which is so hard in a country like India. This wouldn't have happened again without partnerships. So we have the government, which gives us the land. We have very strong non-profits who run the centers. But I'm so glad to say that we have had HSBC India, who has contributed to this program since the inception. And 2 years back, we had the privilege to welcome JSW as well to support the program. Today, we are at 25 centers. Our goal is to continue to accelerate it. These are very well-designed centers. The closest one is just 1 kilometer away in Dharavi. Absolutely happy to welcome any of you at the center. I will just leave you with this final message from both these examples. Partnerships are really what de-risk innovation. We live in a world of risks. We're constantly looking at ways to de-risk our lives and our businesses. Partnerships help convert that ambition into reality and help in de-risking innovation. Most importantly, they also improve trust. And with that, I will conclude my speech and thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be here.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing those valuable insights with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we now arrive at a very, very special moment in today's program, the release of the NSE Yearbook. NSE Sustainability, ladies and gentlemen, today inaugurates its latest publication, a comprehensive sectoral review of ESG trends, risks, and resilience across the Indian listed universe. This report reflects the growing importance of sustainability considerations in shaping corporate strategy, investor confidence, and long-term value creation. Through data-driven insights and sector-specific analysis, the publication reinforces NSE's sustainability's commitment to advancing credible and decision useful to ESG intelligence. The inauguration of this book marks another important step in supporting and strengthening the sustainability analytics discourse in Indian capital markets. And to do the honors, I request the dignitaries on the dais to please come forward. At the same time, I also request Dr. Harish Ahuja, Srimati Vinita Shetty, and Sri Navneet Munot, sir, to please come forward to join our dignitaries on stage. Please come forward. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the very, very important book launch that is happening. And that's our cue, ladies and gentlemen, for a huge round of applause. Let the applauses keep going on as, we are launching this book. Sorry. Yes. Can you also have the video, please? And meanwhile, can we once again have a huge round of applause as we officially launch the NSE Yearbook? Thank you so much. I would also request the dignitaries to please proceed towards the iconic NSE bell, because you will take this opportunity to ring the iconic NSE bell. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much to all the dignitaries. Can we have a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, I request the dignitaries to please take their seats. Ashish sir, we request you please come on stage as we'll be now having the exchange of mementos. Yes. I request Shri Ashish Kumar Chauhan to present and felicitate Shri Deepak Trivedi. Now I request Dr. Mukund Rajan to please come on stage. Now I request the iconic bell and the NSC book to please come. Now I request Shri Ajay Saxena sir to please come forward. Now I request Shri Prashant Venkatesh sir to please come forward. And finally, I invite Shri Prabodha Acharya sir to please come forward. Thank you so much, and thank you, Ashish sir, for doing the honors, and thank you so much. Can we have a huge round of applause for our dignitaries, please? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be continuing our next session now. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be continuing with the session. Give us a minute's time to just do the setup for the fireside chat. Ladies and gentlemen, now we will be having the fireside chat. I request everyone to please be seated right away as we are waiting for everyone to please settle down. Sir, ma'am, I request you to please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, please, it's a kind request. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be starting with our next session. As sustainability increasingly becomes central to long-term business value creation, organizations are moving beyond compliance and reporting towards integrating sustainability into core business strategy. To explore this important shift, we now present a special fireside conversation. We would like to invite the Managing Director of NSE Sustainability Ratings and Analytics Limited, Ms. Vinita Shetty. Can we have a huge round of applause for Ms. Vinita? And Vinita, ma'am. Warm welcome, ma'am. And joining in conversation with her is Mr. Navneet Munot, the Managing Director and CEO of HDFC Asset Management Company Limited. Can we have a thunderous round of applause for sir, please?
So very warm morning to everybody present here. And after a very beautiful session in the morning, the inaugural session, let's continue with interesting fireside chat with Mr. Munot. To set the context, basically, when we talk about compliance, it says what must be done. And when you talk about strategy, we say what we need to become. So this difference in compliance and strategy is what is shaping today the sustainability space. It's no longer just a reporting requirement. It has now become a way in which the business's thought process is designed around the capital allocation, around the risk management, around how the business is conducted, a whole framework around that is kind of designed around sustainability. It's very important and relevant today because the question earlier was whether there is a sustainability report which is in place. But today, that thing has changed to how has the integration of sustainability happened in the way the business is being managed? And these are very different questions which are in place. And that is what it's a change in the mindset which is there. So when we talk about, the phase one, it was more around the awareness for sustainability. Phase two was around the reporting. And phase three is now what we have is around the strategic intent. So with this context, I welcome Mr. Navneet Munot, MD CEO of HDFC Mutual Fund. He does not require an introduction. He's been a veteran in the industry for the last 3 decades. He has been a member of the AMFI. He's been on the board. He's chaired it for 2 years. He's been on the board of NISM. He's been on the board of BCCI. And he's also been on the working groups as well as a lot of committees set up by SEBI and IFSCA. So very warm welcome to you, Mr. Munot.
Thank you. BCCI stands for Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And of course, Abhay is here, very active in FICCI on various platforms and particularly on the sustainability, something which is very close to my heart. Yeah.
So, Mr. Munot, you've been in this industry for 30 years. You've been in the front row for the evolution around the corporate and the economy. When exactly and how exactly do you think, the leadership started taking cognizance of the sustainability as a key advantage, a competitive advantage, and not really as a compliance reporting?
Thank you, Vinita, and it's such a pleasure to be part of this and in the NSE platform on this important day. Interestingly, the word ecology and the word economics have the same root. The Greek word is oikos, O-I-K-O-S, which has the same root, which means the home. So ecology is like, the working of the home or the state of the home, and economics is the management of the home. but somewhere, maybe in last couple of few hundred years, somewhere there was like a disconnect between these two that should not have been, because both are like quite intertwined, interlinked. And I think my view is that we are again moving in that direction, because logically, as I said, oikos is same. I mean, it's about the home and it's about the collective home, which is this planet Earth that where we all live. And we have come a long way. You talked about like where this, so we had like an intent, we had a narrative, it led to like lots of disclosures and compliances and all that. And now over a period of time, the variety of factors are leading for it to become a part of a strategy, a part of business strategy itself, and maybe a confluence of factors. The world is changing for sure. I mean, you can feel the heat wave, not only in Mumbai, but this is like every year we say that this is the hottest year in 10,000 years or in history. There are challenges on the water levels. In terms of quantity as well as quality. The oceans are acidifying. I mean, the polar caps are melting. Soil is degrading. It's in front of us. And as an economy like $2,500 per capita, a long way to go. We have to ensure that growth is sustainable and sustainability is inclusive. So more and more realization about that. So one is that the world is changing and it's front of us. It's no longer a science narrative. I mean, it's something that people can feel, be it businesses, be it society, be it like policymakers, everyone. I think the consumers are changing. Today, consumers are, particularly the young generation, is looking at any product that you are consuming, where it has been sourced from, what has gone into it, how it will impact the planet. When they are investing, and I'm talking about the younger investors, they are not only looking at what my money is earning, but what my money is doing to the world. There is a greater awareness. There's a lot more data and science around it now because of variety of things. We know a lot more about the climate change, the impact on business, impact on society, a lot more than what we do. The policies and the regulations are changing everywhere. So previous speakers in different ways, Mukund talked about it, and so all of them have been my partner in crime at various forums. How the policies have evolved over a period of time. We take like deep pride in India. BRSR is like labor of love of like a lot of people. We take deep pride. It's one of the best disclosure in the world. I had the honor and pleasure of chairing SEBI's ESG committee. We came out with BRSR core, the first country probably in the world to have the reasonable assurance and improve like maybe certain parameters, the measurability, materiality, and the quality of disclosures, etc. We worked a lot. So all of those are changing. So I think it's a confluence of factors which are leading for businesses to know that it is no longer about putting a policy on the website. It is no longer about the disclosure which is a department is doing, and business strategy has nothing to do with that. It's getting more and more integrated right from the boardrooms to the CEO's office to the management and to everybody in the organization. Everybody is driving that. This has to be at the core of the strategy. Yeah.
So you mentioned that they are becoming more and more sensitive, and it's no longer a side table discussion which is happening. So as the largest institutional investor, how has your conversation with the investors evolved over the time? Has there been any change in the last 5 years, and how has the dynamics around this transformed?
Sure. So I always say that as custodian of investors' money, as a steward of investors' money, our intent is to have long-term, consistent, sustainable returns, a durable performance of an organization, and not to look at the last quarter or the next quarter or the quarter after that. Somebody was talking about, Ashish was just joking with me that Noni should be ringing the bell because he's the one who's going to invest. So my industry, now today we manage like $900 billion. We have seen, I mean, the AUM is now 80 lakh crores. We celebrated 1 lakh crore in 2002. So there's been a journey from 1 lakh to 80 lakh crores. And I always tell our colleagues that over a period of time, this number is only going to increase. We'll have a larger and larger stake in corporate India. We'll have larger and larger stake in the economy. And I used to have a slide in my presentation. The last slide used to be, what is good for the society is good for our portfolio. What is good for the society is good for our portfolio, because we are going to be the long-term perpetual owner of businesses. If the business is not sustainable, if it is not leading to a growth which is sustainable, inclusive, equitable, it cannot be good for us. We are not going to be the paper traders. We are going to be long-term owners of capital, and that's why it's very important. At several forums, I mentioned this, that in our industry, the word we use is like how much alpha you are generating. Alpha is a return we deliver above the benchmark. So if a fund is benchmarked to Nifty 50, it deliver 10%. If it deliver 11, then it's like 1% alpha. The fund manager has done a good job. In fact, over a longer period, a FlexiCap fund of ours, a 30 years period, would have delivered something like 18-19% per annum. Actually, I quoted return. Mutual funds are subject to market risk. Please read the offer document carefully. Past returns are no indication or guarantee of future return. The point I'm making is that we look at the alpha. The more important, I've been saying this for now almost like 15 years as part of this journey in India as a volunteer, that we have to look at increasing the beta of the market. And then people say, how can we increase the market returns? I said, as an investor, if we behave in a manner where we are nudging the corporate behavior towards a more sustainable, equitable, inclusive growth, we are going to have better growth in the economy. We are going to have better corporate performance. Corporates or businesses get the societal license to do business. You started with the governance and the regulation and compliance and all of that. So we have a lot of compliance, we have a lot of regulation, we have lots of rules and code of conduct, etc. But always every business, including ours, or whether it was like JSW, Unilever, we heard from a lot of leaders, everybody gets the bigger license from the society to conduct business and make profit and deliver returns to shareholders. And if you are not doing right for the society, that license will expire one day, or that license will have several limitations imposed on you. And businesses have to keep thinking about their societal license and not only about the business license. So it should never be like, this is what the regulation allows me, this is what I have to do because regulator has asked me. So BRSR karna hai, chalo ek core chalu kar dete hain, chalo ye reporting karni. I don't think that makes sense. I think you imbibe that into your core strategy, you will do well. India will do well, all of us will do well. So I have a very strong view on that. And your question was like, what our institutional investors are doing? I think increasingly we are moving in that direction.
So you made a very interesting point. What's good for the society is going to be good for us. Lovely.
We just launched a PMS product called Growth for Good, SDFC AMC Growth for Good. The Growth for Good is that, of course, I think you invest for growth, and India delivers growth. I mean, we are one of the best compounding stories in the world, notwithstanding the last 1.5 years of underperformance of Indian markets relative to others. Over a longer period, we have been the best compounding story, and no doubt in my mind, we will be the best compounding story in the world for several decades. But it is not only about the growth, but how do we ensure that growth is good for the planet, good for the society, good for people. And in this fund, there is like certain exclusions, apart from the engagement work that we do, certain exclusions of businesses where we think that there is like bigger environmental footprint, or they have an impact on certain things which may or may not be good for humanity in the long run.
So, Mr. But Manoj, there is, always a perception, and this is something like, sustainability is, a trade-off with profitability. So, from your experience in the past, where does the tangible benefit come from, and how strong is that story to kind of ensure that, the intent is kind of met?
There is no trade-off. I mean, equity is like a perpetual bond, right? I mean, you invest because the company will remain in existence till perpetuity. And anything that you are doing which reduces that durability of that business or sustainability of that business cannot be good for you. Be it like you are running a company or you are an investor in the company, I think both need to think in that direction. And as I said, compliance is just one part. Maybe they put certain guardrails, maybe they guide you in terms of maybe there are things that don't come to your mind, and policymakers, because they wear different lens, they work with organizations like FICCI and different thought leaders from different parts of the society, makes you aware of certain things. But I think we need to think deeper and beyond that, that if business is not sustainable, then profits won't continue till the perpetuity, and there is no effectively trade-off. I was very impressed by what Mr. Trivedi said about, like, unless at individual level we don't do it, how are we going to talk about the company level and the entire corporate India level and the society level, and the small things we do. And I tell you, like our business, people will think that sustainability means what we are doing on our portfolio companies. So hundreds of stocks that we own, several of those companies, we would be the largest or one of the largest shareholders. So we would have a certain engagement and influence on the company in terms of, as I said, nudging in the right direction. But on the other side of the business, I keep thinking that to engage with our investors also and create the awareness that investing is not only about like you invest and make money in the fund, but there's a lot more we can do for the society. So this is the 6th edition. We started this program called Nurture Nature. In fact, the 6th edition is getting launched as we speak today. And this year we have titled it Ummeed Ke Beej. So the Nurture Nature started 6 years back, and the same certificate that you gave us of the tree plantation, the same certificate was given to everybody during this period if you have done an SIP in certain equity funds in the digital form. So first is, instead of paper, you do the SIP in the digital format. Then, I mean, the awareness that over a period of time, just like a tree, you sow the seed today, then you put water, and then it requires sun, and over a period of time, it creates plants. So it takes time. Investing is also like that. So for every SIP in that period, we created a tree and gave the certificate. So it creates awareness about both. There is compounding here and there is compounding there for the planet. And then for 2 years we did that. Then 1 year we said that let's do something different, create more awareness about the water and restoration of lakes. So we said every SIP in this period done in digital form, we will few thousand liters of water, and then we give you the certificate. Then we thought like plastic recycling. For every SIP, certain grams of plastic are recycled. We said take it to the next level. And how do we put sustainability, inclusion, and growth together? And we thought more innovatively. So we did that. For every SIP, certain grams of plastic are recycled, and with that plastic, we create a bag. And then we put that this bag is created from a recycled plastic, and that bag is given to the children who are needy in certain schools, so that the school child is thinking about the sustainability, is thinking about plastic usage, etc. And I was there in the Dhobi Ghat in Kolaba in one of the school, and my colleagues were there in different parts. This year we thought something interesting. Looking at this all heat wave and variety of challenges on the agriculture, given the whole challenges on the petrochemicals, fertilizers, etc. So we said that this year we'll call it Ummeed Ke Beej, and it's getting launched as I speak. Ummeed Ke Beej, which is for every SIP, if I remember correctly, the number 2,000 square feet of barren land will get converted into millet farming. So then we work with the farmers on seeds, we work with them on irrigation, we work with them on like training, technology, variety of things, and convert barren land into the millet farming. And millet is better than the other crops. These people would have left the town, or would have left their village, because like the land is barren and they go for somewhere. And the idea is that they go back to their village and we create more awareness.
Can we
So the
have
point,
a huge round of
thank you so
applause
much.
for this initiative, which is there?
The point was that it's so, let's say, and I was very impressed what Mr. Trivedi said, that it's, we all think, yaar, main to SEBI mein hu, so SEBI ka ye hum sustainability mein kar rahe hain, we have done this for water, we have done this for all. But there are many ways, and I'm sure our colleague from Hindustan Lever talked about it, and Prabodh from JSW talked about it. I think every organization has so much innovation that we can do, and the need of this country. There's a lot for all of us to do.
So we are talking about, the initiatives that the institutions are taking, which then reflect at a national scale in terms of, the net zero targets that we have. But just to understand what drives it within the institutions. Is it the intent of the CEO? Is it, the board driving the agenda? Is it that there is incentives linked to that? What exactly are the driving factors for the institutions? Like, you are an exemplary thing on that, but in general, the companies which are listed and who are committed for the sustainability drive, what drives the thing behind?
So I think the CEO sets the ambition. The organization ensures that the ambition gets converted into, leads to execution. The board ensures that that ambition is part of the governance, part of the measurement of the how the executives have delivered for the organization. It's part of the strategy and not just like there is mission and vision somewhere and there is business somewhere else, and how do you remove any kind of if there is a trade-off or friction anywhere, and it gets to the central point, and so on and so forth. And again, I'll repeat that more and more of this, that it has to be part of the core strategy is where I think the real upside is. I think also that for organizations, they also look up to the national leadership. And I think we are very lucky to be in India today, where rest of the countries have wavered in last several years. There was a whole wave. I've been like part of UNPRI for a long time. I've been part of Climate Action 100 plus for a long time and all of that. And I see how global institutions used to give press release that we have joined. In last couple of years, they give a press release that we have moved out of Net Zero Alliance. We have moved out of Climate Action 100 plus because the political narrative in some place has changed. We are in a country at $2,500 per capita GDP, where we have a long way to go. 1.4 billion people need to get to that affluence and need to create prosperity for the country and make the growth inclusive. You have a prime minister who's been like unwavered in last several years. The commitment that we made in Paris or COP26 and every single forum, absolutely unwavering, that we have a Panchamrit, we have like 500 gigawatts of renewable energy. Half of our energy needs to be met through the renewable, and as Ashish mentioned, we achieved that much ahead of the target to reduce the whatever combined 1 billion ton of carbon footprint so far, reducing the energy intensity by 45% and net zero towards 2070. And we are only doubling down on that. And maybe now that the global geopolitical environment is only reinforcing our belief that no, I think there is no reason for us to waver on that, and actually we need to be actually going more ambitiously towards that target. So I think there is a national narrative set by the leader, and automatically each and every corporate leader, I'm sure, is reading the reading the tea leaves, that which way the world is going, as I mentioned in the beginning. Look at the investors, look at your consumers, look at the policymakers, look at the environment around you. If you are not doing it, then maybe you are harming your business in the long run.
Very interesting. But Munarji, if you look at the disclosures which are happening, stakeholders still struggle to understand how and where exactly is the business transformation that has actually happened. So, what actually marks the difference between sophisticated disclosure and, that evidencing of actual integration within the businesses? How does that get highlighted, and where does that come into the fore?
Sure. So when we were working on the BRSR core in the ESG committee and some of the other forums, we were looking at like materiality, I mean, where your focus should be, measurability, how to ensure that they are comparable, they are authentic, and the numbers which are like trustworthy, what gets measured gets improved, and of course the accountability towards it. And that's how we started the assurance and all that. But I always say this, that it should not be a tick box exercise. It should not be a compliance. It is not about the reporting ki ऐसा एक सेबी का format है तो ये करना है, ILODR, whatever, like NSE का format है. So we have to do it, and there is a department which is responsible for that. It sends the sheets to various departments, how many trees you have done, what is the water reduction you have done, what you have done with your supply chain, and then they are just coming out with that report. It has to be like integrated into the whole core, and that's where the real move towards. So I think there was this period where ESG was all about, like, let's say, creating the awareness, having that intent, maybe putting the policies together, and our questions would be, do you have a policy on this? And people said, yeah, tick box, and last two policies, no, we are putting this. Cybersecurity, okay, ye baki hai, abhi dal dete. And then it was about the measure, like true good quality measurement, and something which you can really trust and verify and compare. NSE, and they've done a great job on ensuring that XBRL, and like for all the researchers, academia, for other civil society. A lot of data is available in a format where they can do deeper analysis and can come up with more suggestions and more improvement over a period of time. And then, as I said, the accountability, that board is responsible to ensure that what we are saying, what like Gandhiji ka kehna, that what we do and what we say has to be in sync, and this is where I think we are moving. And our conversation with companies, as I said, initially we would like, when we started 10, 15 years back, do you have this? What are you disclosing? People were doing different things. This is GRI, integrated report, and variety of things. Now we have come up with something, and this is a journey. This is not like done that. We are like huge journey from BRR to BRSR and all of that. It's a journey. Over a period of time, we'll realize that maybe there are a couple of other important things that we have not looked at, and we need to review that. Yeah.
So you spoke about this journey of transformation in your dialogue with the institutions, and in general how it has been adopted and how it has been integrated. So, so if you look at reporting, if it's say a conversation of the past, and we're saying that it's currently the strategy of the businesses that is the present today, what do you see as the future of sustainability?
So before I talk about this, so future is, let me frame it right here. Three things. One, for India, one is the transition, second is the technology, and third is the trust. But before I talk about the transition, technology, and trust, so future depends on what you do today. And what you do today is like also has linkages with your past. And we are again like going back to the same point. We are very lucky that we are in this country. And in fact, I wrote that in my forward for the ESG committee final report, that I think in India, while we looked at the rest of the world, we looked at all the taxonomy, and Neha just stepped out. She was my partner in crime, and we had a FICCI working group on framework for the Indian taxonomy, and we looked at everything. We looked at the Climate Bond Initiative, we looked at UK, we looked at like China, we looked at like many other countries, we looked at all the disclosure formats everywhere, and then how they've aligned with the NDCs and all of that. But I wrote like a full, more than a paragraph, I remember, that in India, while of course we need to be open to like what's happening in the rest of the world and what we can learn from them, we still look at S1, S2 and many things at some or the other forum. But I always say this, that at some point in time, the world will realize that the place where they can learn what ESG is all about is this place. Because this is part of our civilizational heritage. This is about our ancient wisdom. 2,500 years back, Lord Mahavir said, Parasparo Graho Jivanam. All life is interdependent. Every life is dependent on the other. Thousands of years back, we said that, like, the Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, the whole planet is my family. I mean, what kind of wisdom we had thousands of years back. We have always believed, and groups like Tata and all, and several decades back, or let's say take pride, I'm part of the SDFC group, the way Mr. S.T. Parekh started. Bahujan Hitai, Bahujan Sukhai. I mean, unless it's good for everyone, unless good for society, then it doesn't make sense. So it's part of our ethos. So while we need to be open and learn from everyone, we need to go back to our roots and just kind of like at least have that as a core, and then of course apply the science and now the AI and everything, that how we can be better and better in every disclosure. But again, I mean, repeating maybe at the cost of repetition 10th time, that it's not about the disclosure, it's about the creating that culture, creating that that attitude in every organization. What is good for the society is good for your portfolio. What is good for society is good for your business.
Bahujan Hitai, Bahujan Sukhai. So with that beautiful note, I thank Mr. Navneet Monod for this wonderful insight, this experience perspective that he's given across why is sustainability so important to be ingrained in the institutional philosophy and the way it works. Thank you so much, Mr. Monod.
Thank you so much, sir and ma'am, for that very, very wonderful fireside chat. I request Vinita ma'am to present the memento to sir, please. Can we have the memento, please? Thank you. Thank you so much. And that is the NSC's wonderful coffee table book, encapsulating the 30 remarkable years of NSC. Thank you so much once again, Soren ma'am. Thank you. And with that, we are moving with our next segment. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move to our first plenary session that is titled Green Equity and ESG Debt Securities, India's Capital Market Suite. To lead the discussion, we'll be having Dr. Harish Ahuja. Ladies and gentlemen, to lead the discussion, please help me in welcoming Dr. Harish Ahuja, Executive Vice President and Head, Sustainability, Power and Carbon Markets, Listing and Social Stock Exchange at NSE. Very, very warm welcome, sir. And we're also honored to welcome our distinguished panelists. We have here with us, and I would like to welcome the IAS of Joint CEO of Mitra, Shri Aman Mittal. Can we have a huge round of applause? Joining them, we have Ms. Neha Kumar, who's the head of South Asia at Climate Bonds Initiative. Joining them, we have Ms. J.C. Paul, former Chief General Manager, ESG and Climate Finance, State Bank of India. And we have here with us Ms. Sri Lakshmi Hariharan, Managing Director and CEO of eCube Investments Advisor. Ladies and gentlemen, it would be nice to have appropriate round of applauses because it's not every day we see such dignitaries on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, before we commence the session, we would like to accord our green welcome to Shri Aman Mittal, IAS, Joint CEO Mitra. So as a part of FICCI's Green Certificate Initiative, a grove of trees has been planted in the name of Shri Aman Mittal, symbolizing our collective commitment to environmental stewardship and a greener future. So may I request Dr. Harish Ahuja to kindly present the green certificate to Shri Aman Mittal. Can we have the green certificate, please? So with that, I hand it over to Dr. Harish Ahuja.
I would say good morning. It's almost 3 minutes in the afternoon. First of all, on behalf of National Stock Exchange and FICCI, I'd like to thank you all the participants and my esteemed panelists to be present on this World Environment Day. It would be more like a free flow of thought, but the way I'm structuring this session is we'll have first round of questions, and then I will open the floor for seeking your feedback and questions, so that in the second question, in fact, they can also co-opt their questions, so that it's more like interactive and informative discussion rather than just we speaking and you are a passive listener. And before I start my questions, I like to give my take on this very session, which is green equity and ESG debt securities and how Indian capital market suite is developing around climate finance. I like to share with my 3 past experience. Of late, I'm traveling a lot, more or less out of the world, out of the country, what do you say. But let me share 3 stories, and it will kind of set the context, and I think that feeling or the experience should be co-opted in your answer. So 15 days back, I was in Sydney, and I was part of a panel which was interacting with the senior officials of Australian government, because you'll be surprised that India is investing more in Australia than Australia investing in us. So MEA, Ministry of External Affairs, and future funds of Australia sat together and said what we can do together, So this was the context, and there a green transition, energy transition was a very important topic. And the way it was concluded like this, and this is very interesting, in fact, and why we say doing good for corporate, doing good for the nation is good for capital market also. Let me give this perspective. How many of you know that India has achieved a $3,000 per capita income? Are you aware about that? Now, almost $3,000 China achieved in 1997. So how China grew from $3,000 to $12,000 and how they achieved a $36 trillion economy is connected, you know. So let's come back to India. If India had to achieve its Viksit Bharat by 2047, that India needs year on year roughly $400 billion. And the good part of that is, if you see my net zero transition, year on year we require till 2030 roughly $166 billion. So out of this $400 billion till 2030, $166 billion is going to energy transition. So India is definitely a structural story, because money which is flowing in India for making it Viksit Bharat, it's basically the bedrock is energy transition. $166 billion, which is a clean capital, adding the infrastructure, port, airport, energy transition. So this is a very structural growth story. And why I'm saying so, because we need to attract a lot of future capital, sovereign wealth fund, you know, and long-term investors. So this is one. Almost 1 year back, I was in Abu Dhabi, and when I was there, in fact, one of the nuclear plant was attacked. And there was a siren on the mobile, and we were just, not hiding per se, but, you know, there was kind of panic again that, you know, war has again started. So maybe Iran war, there is a ceasefire. Maybe there are some small firing here and there happening. But I think history has been written, future has been redrawn in two ways. One, and I keep talking about this, I think the Cold War has begun. A new Cold War has begun, and this time Cold World War is around two axes. One lobby is fossil fuel led. The old world, which is a US and world, is trying to keep the fossil fuel hegemony. And the second is the new energy world, which is led by China. And I think we need to realign our forces or our efforts, which axis we will choose. I think India has very deliberately tried to be in somewhere center, because we have kept our net zero target in 2070. So this, how India will play a kind of important role in this new alignment of Cold War is very important. And third very important thing, last week I was in Shenzhen. I was attending Shenzhen exchange, event. And last day I got some time to do some shopping for my wife and my daughter. So I went to the electronic city there. And it's sheer coincidence that taxi wala dropped me almost 3 minutes before my main mall where the electronic shopping has to be done. And I was crossing the road and there was a red light. And when I was standing on the red light, I saw on my right side, first two rows, I mean, this is a 5-lane road. First entire row of car was green cars. I said, maybe this is a kind of coincidence that all cars are in green car. Because as per my understanding, China has a penetration of 37% of electric vehicle. But second row was also green. And the third row, I mean 5 plus 5, 10. And third row, 2 cars were blue, I mean the fossil fuel. So 13 out of 15 cars, electric vehicle cars. So why I made this synthesis here is, it's very important to understand how the globe is happening, how the China is reshaping itself. But we are very lucky to have this very important esteemed panel here, because I'm seeing we have products. I mean, we have sustainability bonds, we have green equity, we have SMEs and entering into energy transition. So I think this panel is very structured in that sense. We have a customer of that product, an issuer in shape of Mr. Mittal, who use these products. We have Neha from Climate Initiative, which bring the trust, credibility, and a taxonomy perspective. We have a banker institution, SBI, which will kind of give us a perspective what exactly is missing this entire ecosystem of disclosure, debt, reporting, and execution. And last but not the least, we have a person from eCube, which will guide us what international investors are looking into when they're investing into this very ESG story of India. So let me start with Mr. Mittal. Mittal Saab, a very specific question India needs, and I'll share the data here and you can add your story there. India needs $166 billion year on year. And I'll talk only about capital markets and generic information. Keeping in view the debt contribution from the listed space is around 12 billion. From listed equity space, we are putting around $3 billion. And if we add municipal bond or sustainability bonds, roughly $16 billion is coming from capital market only. Around $7 to $10 billion is coming, $7 billion is coming from the banking side, you know. So around 20 to $23 billion is definitely coming to the market, very structured way. So out of $166 billion, $25 billion is coming. We are short of $130 billion. Now in this short kind of environment of climate finance, when you go to the market and raise capital, how exactly you structure the product, you know, how you raise the money in your, Mitra, I mean, any thought on this?
Yeah, so I'll just give a bit of perspective on this of what we are doing in the government of Maharashtra and how Mitra is kind of helping it. So one of the fundamental things is, as you said, that there's this huge gap between the developmental needs of the country as well as the state, and I'll be focusing more on the state of Maharashtra, as well vis-a-vis the amount of capital that is currently coming in. And to achieve that kind of growth target of becoming a Viksit Bharat and a vision of Maharashtra for 2047, the total requirement will be around 27% of the GDP will be required. Out of it, only 2% will come from public finances, which leaves around 25% coming in from the private capital or the private space. So, and this is not my number, these are the numbers given in the Maharashtra Economic Development Report. It was published in 2023. So how do we achieve that? So one of the first things is that we are doing in Mitra is to actually create a list of bankable and the partially bankable products, and to actually make public finance as a lever to generate private capital. So, and within that, I think climate finance sits very, very nicely on this. As part of it, the first thing that we have been able to achieve is that Maharashtra has finally its own PPP policy in place, which was launched in March this year. So that kind of provides the lever where we will now try to open most of the spaces. Currently, the PPP were mostly not very successful. They were largely, there were mostly EPC projects which were taking place, and a lot of it was mostly related to, you know, sectors such as roads and, you know, highways, which were slightly, the structure was easy to do. The cash flows were very, you know, easy to understand. But now we are looking at the hard sectors also into this. So that is where we are looking at how VGF can be made as a part of creating more and more private financing coming. Now I'll go more specific into it. So one of the things that we are trying to work on is how do you create new cities, new industrial townships, where the common facilities need not only be developed by government entities. So when you look at agencies like CIDCO or you know, even MMRDA, they've been able to create very good infrastructure, and a lot of this infra is, you know, returning high, is giving high returns, and also providing stable returns over a long period of time. You know, so CIDCO is a very profitable entity that way. The other thing, when you look at this new scheme of PM E-Bus, where the buses, the municipal corporation buses are getting replaced using the, you know, funds of the private sector, which are going to be insured by the first loss guarantee given by the central government agencies. So these are two very specific things that which will probably require investments in, I think the PM E-Bus was about 20,000 CR, and the city's transformation requires something like 70,000 CR to develop it. But the thing is that these are able to provide long-term gains to the investors, and at market rate. The only thing is there's a very high risk in terms, because there's only one payer. The payer is largely the government. So that kind of risk guarantee is something that governments should take up. So I think this is one of the products that we are going to come back to probably in a few months. So these kind of investments we are looking at from the private markets, both in terms of equity investment, like the city development is something where a lot of equity investment can come in. There can be an SPV of the government and the private sector. The government can have a minor shareholding and also provide the risk guarantee, and it can really taper off once the private developer is able to actually develop these townships. One of the DPRs we prepared for this Osmanabad, Dharashiv district. So I think hopefully that will be one of the first projects where we are able to get a fully integrated township with zero emissions, zero ZLD discharges, the common effluent treatment plants, and a plug-and-play model developed totally by the private sector with long-term investment guarantees given by the government. So that, and then on the lines of PM e-bus, we are doing the CM e-bus thing. There is the greening of foundries that we are doing, where the main thing is the grant fund is going to be given for the initial capital, and then the long-term the cost reductions can be used to pay off those kind of loans. So these are the few of the things that we are doing. And the last and most importantly is when we talk about how do we make this hard to abate sectors like steel, cement, textile. So these are the challenges where a lot of these projects are going to be partially bankable. The first set of projects I talked about were mostly those bankable projects. So this is where this PPP policy should play a bigger role. So I think we should have a...
Yeah, sure. No, Aman, so thank you very much. I think I could sense it that you need roughly $5 billion to $6 billion to drive your sustainable agenda, be it PMEA-bus, and a very short term, and also the entire city like a sustainable city. Before I come to Neha, I just like to share one thing which is very interesting for everyone to know. In last 3 years, and I share it all the Global 4 also, in last 3 years, we had done roughly, broadly 670 IPOs. And in that 670 IPOs, more or less ratios, in terms of number, 50-50, 50 main board, 50 SME, which are SMEs. Fundraise would be roughly $55 billion. But the good part is around 15 to 17% capital, which has gone into this IPO, has been raised by climate tech or green tech companies. And what is beautiful about this, Aman, I like to share with you is, why climate tech and green tech companies are getting good P multiple. Whenever they come to market, most of the companies, barring few, have got very good P multiple, very good valuation, because three things are shaping up this attractive valuation. One is, all these companies are basically climate infra tech company. They are doing some solar project for next 25 years. They got their PPA is done with the government, you know. Second, very tangible. You can see the asset, you know. You can touch the asset, and not only they are giving you good returns, and because their free cash flows are very secure, but they're also giving you clean energy, clean water, and clean air. So people love it. And third very important thing is what an investor in capital market look. They look basically a stability of cash flows. They can touch the asset, they can touch the team, and most important thing, they can see the consistent growth. They don't expect that you should go 5x, 6x like a venture capitalist. A typical investor, be it SDFC fund or institutional investor or a retail investor, they need consistency because they can then offer the consistent alpha. I think all these facilities are there, but the way it has to be projected, I'll come to Neha now with this question. And I'll give you a practical case. If Aman tomorrow like to make his, I will say, sustainable city a project, how your understanding of climate bond or SLBs or green bond will bring the trust and credibility so that they can come and raise the capital, be it through municipal bond or be it through SLB or be it through green bond. Can you give us an actual picture here, how exactly it will work for Aman also and for the audience here?
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for organizing this conversation. So that's a very, very good question. And just for the benefit of the audience, Climate Bonds is an investor-focused, not-for-profit organization which works on setting standards which guide the flow of capital and then works with investors, with market makers, with developers, with governments, with bankers to get those deals out in the market. So let me just answer your question. If Aman came to me, how to help him, I would say to start with, if you have structures in place, almost any structure would need to go through a screening filter, which is what we call a taxonomy, right? And taxonomy would basically assess the robustness of greenness. So that is on one side, that is on mitigation side, that you will know that all the assets that you have identified will reduce the emissions by this much, and all of this is simplified in what we have as a climate bond standard, which is a global standard. But also what will be forthcoming is the Indian climate finance taxonomy, which is actually looking at most of these global standards and trying to make things simple. So what is green, which could be pure play, which could be a solar asset, which could be a wind power asset. But you talked about steel, it is not only about the bankability of projects, but also understanding that they are greening, they may not have attained the greenness, except for say electric arc furnace and something like that. There would be a trajectory through which they will have to pass through. And that trajectory will be simplified for identification through a taxonomy. So the first thing that I'll tell you, Aman, is let's put a taxonomy filter on all the projects that you have. And then how do you then go about it? And even SEBI in India now has made it very clear. Green debt issuance, now has to follow a process. It recognizes international standards. So if you are looking at international standards, you're already covered. That becomes the gold standard. Additionally, what it says is that you have to identify the use of proceeds, look at the management of those proceeds within the organization, look at how they will be allocated, through the tenor of the bond, etc. And you have to publicly report. So there is a process. And that process then needs to be verified or certified through an external agency. So you will need to do a couple of things. You will need to immediately say, okay, I'm going to not only, so self-labeling does not cut anymore. You will have to get it externally verified. You will have to use a taxonomy filter. You will have to appoint, say, an external verifier, and then look at whether that structure can raise money from the market. And if that is a bond structure, if that is a PPP structure, almost everything can go through this green taxonomy standard. The other thing that I just wanted to mention was that since you talked about cities, I think a huge opportunity also lies in resilience, right? So the municipal bonds that we have recently come out, they are about water infrastructure. They are about water sanitation, which is part about, how to make water supply much more a resilient resource. So increasingly, that bit also gets very well identified through taxonomy, which is looking at resilience. So you will have to do certain checks. If you want to even think about, say, imagine, say, a PPP project, which is talking about, say, heat-proof, cool-roofed, affordable housing structures, right? Let me give you an example. And there would be public money coming in. You would probably need some private participants to basically, do the construction, etc. Then one will have to see how these avoided costs you talked about. In mitigation, we talk about emission reduction. In resilience, we talk about the gains or the avoided costs, which would have otherwise you would have had to incur in case those structures were not there. These would be in terms of health costs. This could be many costs, so that monetization will have to be identified. And then you can actually put it in a PPP structure, which actually goes through a robust resilience taxonomy and come to the market. So these things are possible, and I'll be very happy to have a conversation with you in detail and actually look at some of these pipelines I think that Mitra has been building to basically bring that through in a manner that it becomes attractive to investors who are looking at these robust frameworks for them to feel comfortable that the costs avoided today are gains of tomorrow, and if there is a repayment model that can be fixed, then it is better to understand it today rather than wait for a couple of years down the line. I think this is very much the design stage, and more the projects you have, the more it will be good to look at those pipelines.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you. I think let's take the conversation to non-institutional, which is Jesse sitting here. I like to stick to this very idea of Aman bringing this sustainable city concept and raising the finance through capital market, through institutions, being framework at one place, being trust and credibility at another place. But the very risk inbuilt into this entire concept need some kind of, ironing out by institutions or by capital market. So, did we follow SLB or a social bond or municipal bond? The different instrument now we are in the market. But as an institution, if you see this very idea, how exactly you will take away the risk and how will you structure this deal for your other investors? Jesse, to you, the question is, yeah.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, congratulations to FICCI and NSE for organizing this program on the World Environment Day. And thank you for having me here, giving me this opportunity, despite having added a former to my title. So when we look at this space, the climate space, there are various numbers floating around. The amount of climate finance that is required for reaching net zero by 2070. Various numbers floating around from various sources. So I will go by the Niti Aayog numbers. They said 2070, the climate, up to 2070, the aggregate climate finance required is $22.7 trillion US dollars, and the gap is assessed at $6.5 trillion US dollars. So there is a dearth of climate finance. So before I look at climate finance, which I look at as a means to achieve an end, it's only a means. The end is more important, greening the assets, making our infrastructure, cities sustainable, climate-proofing our assets. That is the end we are looking at. So what is more important is the asset side, infrastructure side. So making them green, it needs a lot of ecosystem support. Of course, making an asset sustainable, more energy efficient, the incremental cost in the beginning. Many a times, project owners find it difficult to accept or agree to spend that incremental amount in making the asset sustainable or energy efficient. So there was a question in the earlier chat whether sustainability is sustainable in the long term. So my view on that is that when you look at an asset, long-term asset, you should look at an asset over the life cycle of that asset. You should not look at what is the incremental cost for me today. Over the life cycle of 20 or 30 or 40 years of infrastructure life cycle, of course that incremental cost makes sense. So that awareness creation that sustainability really sells and it makes business sense, that is, I feel that's a prerequisite. So coming to the climate finance side of it, whenever we talk about climate finance, the expectation is that climate finance comes at a concessional rate. The moment somebody says, I'm putting up a green project or a sustainable project, the expectation from the banks or whoever is supporting financially, whoever is extending the funds, the expectation is that it comes at a concessional pricing. But thing is that for greening or making an asset sustainable, can we always appeal to can we always look at concessional financing? Shouldn't it be, can we appeal to the goodness or generosity of philanthropic funds or blended finance? Any commercial activity, green or otherwise, should be able to stand on its own feet and it should be sustainable, commercially viable, bankable on their own.
Jesse, I'd like to intervene here. I'd just like to ask a very specific question. This intrigued me also. Globally, social bond, I'm coming to blended finance now, and I think many state governments are now seriously considering raising, a social bond for this kind of city. Also, they can raise a social bond, SLB. I'm just coming to this blended finance instrument because this is our last mile we are about to. We're going to launch social impact bond very soon, and this question is very specific to institution like you. Globally, it's an $80 billion market. $80 billion market, social bond market. In India, we're not even started. There are some OTC. We have done 5 million, 6 million here and there, but there's a huge scope, which are social bond, nothing but a kind of ESG bond. SEBI has come with the regulation in June 2025, but there's still a lot of issues there, you know. And being a capital market, becoming the gateway of climate finance, I'm raising this question to institution. What kind of challenges you see in social bond as of now, or ESG bond as of now? If you're going to take, you can say, other. If you can just say that, I'd like to pass it on. It's okay.
We have raised a few ESG bonds, social loans rather, of course in dollars. Now I need to speak from the perspective of State Bank of India. So when we go to the international market, I need to talk about greenium, whether there's a greenium or not. Second is that the hedging cost. See, when we go to the international market and raise dollars, if you're converting into rupees, that hedging cost, the moment you add that hedging cost, it doesn't make commercial sense. So as a State Bank of India, I keep on saying we used to, maybe I need to change that narrative, but what is being done is that SBI has a natural hedge because we have got huge international operations. But any Indian entity which doesn't have a natural hedge intends to raise money in the foreign market, overseas market, whether it is an ESG bond, ESG loan, social, SLL, whatever, the moment hedging cost kicks in, it becomes difficult. Then again, there are, one stark difference between India and developed markets is that there are many international funds which have mandates for ESG or sustainable funding. Again, the challenge there is that they look for very high grade credit, which many a times our entities, our projects do not really qualify.
So I think I'm just parking this thought. I'm not thinking to raise for social bond money from outside. I'm thinking from India. So I'm just parking this thought. Maybe someone asked this question because it's a very huge area. ESG bond, social bond, this is going to be a very big market in capital markets too. And I expect some question also. So just parking this thought. Yeah. Now let me come to Sri Lakshmi. Sri Lakshmi, taking, I will not say the same logic or same project, but this debate on impact fund, climate fund, between impact versus profit, I'm seeing it from last 30 years, you know, and it is not getting resolved. You know, that we need impact, because I was hearing in a very international big conference, and a very savvy investor are saying that, you know, as a venture capitalist, I have a very different criteria for assessing, you know, a climate finance project or impact project. And I was just thinking, does he understand what is impact, how to measure impact for a, you know, climate project, or he's just tweaking his existing criteria of venture capitalist to somehow suit to the impact area? And most of the venture capitalists does it, where the public market sees with a different lens. My question to you, how do you address this? Because you are raising, I know, your fund is approaching basically the global funds and trying to calibrate between this impact versus profit equation very smartly. How you're handling this? And I'd like to understand this.
Sure. Thank you, and that's a fantastic question. What we see when we do speak to global investors is, one, we do see that there is interest, there is intent, and there is capital available. So that's really, that we don't see to be an issue. But what we really see is these investors are also looking for, exactly how Aman said, bankable projects. And what does bankable mean in their language, right? Number one, like you're mentioning, they have the set of checklist as what qualifies as an impact project, or where do we invest in. Second, they're looking for credit worthiness. They're looking for data that actually establishes that this is leading to certain impact. But I think what is happening because of this is a large part of the capital flow, when you actually trace it, it then stops at these institutional grade issuers who are actually very large. But then what happens to all the issuers who are much below that, right? Your MSMEs, your mid-market, they're the ones that really need the capital to enable the transition. Your tier 2 suppliers, your manufacturer sitting in Coimbatore who wants to probably put in greener, you know, energy efficient processes, a fleet operator who wants to probably put in their EV fleets. Now, by the very nature of their operations, they're very out of this entire, they sit outside the perimeter of these bankable projects in terms of their credit worthiness, in terms of the small ticket sizes, in terms of data availability. So how do we really make these kind of MSME suppliers bankable, I think, is the real question. And I think if we're very clever about it, there are interesting ways in which we can actually support this entire ecosystem. And two thoughts that I would like to submit here, how we can look at it. The first one is through the large corporates. Now, large corporates are actually working with very large number of supply chains, right? And the large corporates have tens and thousands of supply chain partners. And they come with something that these MSMEs don't have, which is creditworthiness. And they have access to data. So supposing these large corporates take the lead in actually helping support their supply chains in greening the transition through maybe a small corporate-backed credit guarantee. They bring in the credit worthiness, they're able to aggregate the demand that is coming in from the SME space. The second probably an innovative proposition that we could consider as an aggregation point for these MSMEs is your NBFCs. Now, NBFCs are lending to these MSMEs for supporting some of their green transitions for the solar rooftops and for energy efficient things. But all these loans are sitting in their balance sheet. Now, supposing these NBFCs can potentially look at their loan pool, identify some of these eligible loan pools, and maybe structure them into securities, which can then the capital market can participate in, green securities. And what would really require to enable that is very clear taxonomies. Of course, the climate taxonomy is the foundation for it, and it will have to get extended to really classify MSME loans and very clearly define which MSME loans actually qualify for green securitization.
I think on SMEs and their listing, I'll be very, very focused and very myopic and very selfish here. I think on SME, I always say that if you are doing well on the profits, you'll do good in the markets, you know. And how exactly we'll achieve that, I'm not asking this question right now, but it's very specific. If you see NSE criteria of SME listing, we see free cash flow positive for equity owners. We see their EBITDA positive in last 2 out of 3 years. We see their operational history is reasonably good. So how they will achieve through credit guarantee or by some kind of their vendor chain partners giving them some kind of counter guarantee, there's a different issue. But I think please park it that businesses which will do on profits will do good on the capital markets. That myopic we should be there, because ultimately we are serving the retail investor also and anchor investor also. But in the meanwhile, I think let me take a pause here. If anyone any question, for the next round of question, I think I like to assimilate your questions and my questions. So any questions, feel free to ask. So we have, very senior dignitaries here from here. Good. Please, bike.
I am Ramisha. I'm from the leading law firm of the country, Shardul Amarchand Mangaldas, and I'm setting up the ESG carbon and climate change practice over there. And repeatedly, what I'm noticing is that everybody wants to launch all these climate bonds, the green finance instruments, which we're also working on, but it's the issue of standards which is missing. So as NSE is there on the panel and the other ones, what exactly is the status that is going on in the, before the lawyers actually partake into the conversation? So what is the status of this, the standards which we are awaiting, so that we can also add on to it and then come to like the taxonomy is also like a work in progress. So what exactly are also the industrial and the stakeholders intake onto this inside? And what exactly would you also want for it to make it feasible?
Hi, this is Dipen. Though I'm a NSE Group employee, this question is more in a personal capacity, because earlier I used to work in social sector and I've worked with mangrove-based fishing communities. So we used to look at how do we generate blue carbon credits through the mangrove-based aquaculture they get potentially do. Should we prioritize SROI metric over the ROI metric? So I would like to have your views on this. Like, if there is a grassroots level project, how can that project be linked to the institutional infrastructure to monetize that?
Thank you, Chairman. I am Harish Kumar from the CSTV Innovation Center for all over Rajasthan. We work on the environment and energy issues. First, my observation, sir. Thanks to the FICCI and NSIC give a good exposition of the climate change risk, how to make the climate risk, climate finance, climate possibilities. Question is, observation that we are in the SME sector, So many SMEs are there in India, so many, but unorganized women. How many SMEs have utilized standardization? Because of the government of Quality Council will have a JAD certification scheme. How many JAD certification scheme is to be utilized in SME sector? So the standardized work to the good productivity, good economy of the industries. Second is, so many industrial estates are there. They are not environmentally sound. No access to water, no access to environmental condition, no access to energy conditions. So how to make a productivity? Innovation, conservation, and productivity. Innovative, conservative, and productivity. So my suggestion is, one put up one scheme in India, one nation, one district, one corporation, one corporate, and one ESG as a TRC, Technology Resource Center. Because
Sir,
so many schemes
what is your
are,
question? I like your comments. I like your comments.
One question is how to make a transfer on a local level. Think globally, locally. So many schemes are there, but not productive.
Same question, Rinesh, you asked, right? That how to connect the local project to institutional framework.
Yes.
Same question you are asking. Anyone else? Please feel free to ask the question because.
Yeah, good afternoon, team. This is Professor Hema Devan representing IIM Mumbai. So while we have a corporate sustainability course program running, the panelists are quite well established. So would like to know, like, since we deal a lot with industries, projects, etc., we still don't see that trickling down happening at an OEM's level. Maybe the top management is very pro, our government is very pro because of the global hits coming, but for other reasons also that proness is still there. But when we talk about corporates, the top management is aligned. How to align the distributors, the suppliers, the tier 2, tier 3, etc. It's certainly a cost center. While we can make it a business case at any point of time for the top companies in the stock exchanges, how to trickle it down? Because there's something where the maximum coming from sustainability is expected. So that is how to operationalize it.
I will give some ideas here. Yes, please.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Miraj Namdar, faculty NISM. My question is related to the green bond and bond related. We are observing that continuously a greenium is vanishing, and recently RBI also cancelled out their sovereign green bond. So how the issuer are thinking is if the yield is higher than the brown bond?
One last question, please. Yeah.
Yeah, hi. My name is Roshan. I am from Deloitte. So my question is about adaptation and resilience finance. As Neha ma'am mentioned that there is a huge opportunity lying, and even economic survey also mentioned that 90% of the adaptation finance has come domestically, but majorly from the public sources. So is there any innovation happening in that space for the adaptation and resilience finance, and how we can increase the participation from the commercial banks in that space?
So there were typically 6 questions. I think 3 questions pertain to Neha. Neha, I'll come to that. Green bond, standards, and adaptation resilience bonds. Okay, I'll come to that. One question was very specific to how the mangrove cultivation at a low level can be connected to the institutional framework. And one question was on how SMEs, which are kind of very much part of ecosystem, but because of so many reasons, because of their own bottlenecks, they are not able to become part of the larger ESG play which is happening at the country level. So let me just set a context, then I'll give to you, and then you can also add here. On SME, you said very well, and I pointed very well. I believe that only if you are doing good, well on your profit, you can do something good for ESG. Trust you me, I believe in this. Because I myself used to be entrepreneur, SME level, and I know they are so busy in their day-to-day hassles and salary payout and vendor issues and operation issues. They don't have time to think about E, forget about S and G. So I think here what we thought about introducing was, some top-notch 100 institutions, can they on sumo to start level 3 reporting, scope 3 reporting, where they can help, like Sri Lakshmi said, Secondly, to bring some kind of, I would not say grant mechanism, but if we can start some BRSR light kind of thing for SMEs, which, voluntarily they do with the AI tool, NSE is working on that. We are working with the help of FICCI or CII, which will come forward for a SME light BRSR core tool, which you just put your data and within half an hour, AI will create the reporting for you. And that reporting would be quite handy to say that at least we are conscious toward this and help us if we do the scope 3 emission reporting, The third thing which I think Sri Lakshmi will also add here is we need to have very separate, specific scheme. And Mittal Saab is sitting here. I think I will suggest that, SMEs are very keen to contribute in their own way to ESG. But when they approach the government normally give them the loan, or they talk about certain asset-backed or mortgage-backed subsidies. That should be taken away. I think there should be some kind of grant mechanism in terms of their own awareness effort or effort they are creating to affect the environment. I think government should seriously think about it, because when I was running an impact company, but I never got any subsidy. Think about it, So Sri Lakshmi would like to add on SME, then we'll come to Neha for all the balance 3 questions. And you can also, Jesse, you can also add something what SBI doing for SME financing and how exactly you can help on ESG side. Sri Lakshmi, to you.
Sure. Maybe I'll just add 1 or 2 points to what we've discussed. One is that I think SMEs will start coming into the fold, because now with BRSR looking at the core to report on their scope 3 emissions. When you look at scope 3 emissions of corporates, that sits in their supply chain, and that's exactly where your SME sits. So when you start reporting, you will start getting more data, accountability will start, and that naturally then it becomes, now the large corporates will start, it becomes in their interest now to help green their supply chains. So I think that natural progression and that starting point has already started. And I think really to kind of drive and accelerate this, corporates really need to step up and help support the transition of their SMEs, potentially through maybe some interesting instruments, right? Maybe like a corporate backed guarantee, which gives the credit worthiness to the SMEs. They have the data of their suppliers. They can potentially stand for a guarantee because they control all the invoicing. They have all the invoices. So they can potentially give a very small kind of a corporate back guarantee, which reduces the risk of actually lending to SMEs. And they can partner with their own banks to help issue some of these loans to SME. So I think the corporates can potentially take the lead and take the first step in supporting the green transition of their supply chain. It's really the question of who's going to step up and do this.
Quickly.
Okay. Quickly, 4 questions, answering quickly. Okay, 3 questions. First was about standardization. I think that hits the nail on its head. Globally, there are nearly 6.7 trillion of green bonds and other thematic bonds, ESG, social, etc., outstanding, okay? This happened in a period of 15 years. How did it happen? Because of standardization. It was a simple structure of green bond. The bond everybody knows. The green features were layered on top, and a standardized process was introduced, which was absolutely easy for investors to follow, easy in the sense at least there was a template. Okay, so finance flows easily where the perception of risk is lower and when the standards or templatization is much more routine, right? In India, we have around $60 billion worth of green bonds and other thematic bonds which have been issued. They have happened on account of international standards already being adopted by Indian issuers. That was the kickstart, okay? So the national taxonomy and the international standards that are now playing together, they give you a launch pad anyway. Now there are new things coming, and coming to your question of social bond, sustainability linked bond, these are very new structures. Harish, standardization is happening, but still not achieved. The familiarity level, the uptake level as green bonds have. The resilience taxonomy also has a lot of social features, which is the global resilience taxonomy that I'm talking about, which the climate bonds has introduced, whether it is education, whether it is health, whether it is all of that. So once they start becoming available in terms of taxonomies and standards, people issuing and people looking at buying those will become much more comfortable, because then there is arbitrariness which gets reduced. So yes, when is it coming? The question was, when is the national? We're all waiting. Our guess is as good as yours. I have been working, and JC has also been, with the committee of Ministry of Finance. I think recently there was a meeting. It should have come. It should have come last year. Okay, but that does not mean that if there is no climate finance in national climate finance taxonomy, nothing can happen. Actually, market is already moving ahead. Lots of certifications, SPOs are already happening. So there is that thing already there. Then the national finance taxonomy comes, of course, the international standards and the national finance taxonomy. The people, the verifiers, the assurance standards, they will also have to look at how would you certify something which is adhering to national finance taxonomy. My bottom line is that if you are, and I'm speaking from where I sit, global standards making body, as well as in the national finance taxonomy. If you are today adhering to international standards like ICMA, climate bond standards, etc., you will cover the requirements of alignment of national standards. So this is my very simple
Just to add with Neha, in fact, draft taxonomy, NSE was preparing the green equity principle, and for quite some time, we waited for green taxonomy to come in place, because we're thinking that our green equity principle should be aligned to the national policy. But ultimately, we took a call, what Neha said, that we studied other taxonomy, and we saw the right was the intent in green taxonomy of India, and we came out of the principle. So if you are really serious, sincere, and I would say the capable also, the capable is a very important word, nobody stops you to adopt the international standards or draft green taxonomy in India, because it gives kind of legitimacy to you. We have done it. I just like to answer, and this is my personal thought, nothing to do with the institution here. I think this very expectation of greenium is wrong. Trust you me. I mean, when I raise the debate of impact versus profit, or purpose and profit, I think, why do you expect greenium? I mean, when you are issuing those bonds to public in the capital market for making some money, making some profit. Trust you me, and if you have to do charity, go to social stock exchange, just give the grant, or go to the social bond subscription. But when they come to green bond or SLB, they do expect reasonable returns, if not very high returns. So I think, and of late, more or less all the corporates that acknowledge that, and this acknowledgement also come when SBI started with green deposit. There's no additional rate of interest for green deposit. So I think this acknowledgement of there will be no green anymore has kind of gone into our mind, and that should be the norm now. I think this
Harish,
is my
may
thought.
I also add something to this
Quickly,
thought
yeah,
on
please.
greenium? Yes,
Jesse, I'll come to you now.
Yes,
Okay.
very quickly. So first of all, I agree with what he has just said, okay? Look, the whole concept of greenium is supposed to retire. It is not supposed to stay. So if you're after greenium, then you are playing the wrong game, okay? Second, look at the preferential set of investors that get interested in you. Now that definitely is more of an international investor game. We absolutely want our local investors, institutional investors, pension funds, insurance funds, etc., to actually play that game, because it risk-proofs their portfolios. It is, for them, it is a capital preservation strategy. They haven't yet gotten there in terms of awareness. Banks have now started looking at it because RBI has made that momentum. The other thing, just small one, because I really want to clarify this. Everybody talks about sovereign greenium, okay? Let me tell you, its debut issuance was 6 basis points cheaper in an environment where it was local currency, onshore issuance, when there is no local demand. Then it came, right? So so just saying, and when the sovereign or the sub-sovereign or the municipal issues, it not only issues for itself, it makes the market. So look at oversubscription of all the bonds, multiple times. So you are accessing a preferential pool, you're getting, your book order multiple times oversubscribed. Those are the things to go for, and I completely agree with you, Harish, on the greenium question. The last one is on mangrove. It's an extremely important question. May I answer that briefly? How do you use local projects and make them, so one is aggregation. Scale is a problem. It will be a problem for a bank, it will be a problem for institutional investors because the transaction costs are very high, okay? Mangrove, it is an immense opportunity. You know, there is at least $7 billion of coastal assets which are protected by mangroves, okay? The thing that to think over there is, can there be an insurance-linked debt structure available over there which has a repayment model? It is possible. You know, the debt can be serviced by the savings on insurance premiums by the asset owners. It is possible, okay? So you have a huge opportunity over there, but it is not as clear as a mitigation instrument.
The gentleman has a question.
Yeah. So I will just end it over here and we can take it offline. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. My name is Gopen Gupta. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a very different, question. You call this ecological, this imbalance happens because there is so much of construction happening. Okay, any kind of construction. This is a different point in the sense that if any construction happens, so why not those people who are involved, commercial, non-commercial, government, or anybody? So they are replacing that ecosystem, they're affecting it. So why not to have them, pay for the green bonds? And maybe something can be done in the taking care of the local ecology, so that, and have a target that should be done up. So maybe that everybody gets linked up and, that goes to the head, they are responsible, okay. If I buy something, even if a toothpaste, I'm paying tax, whatever. There are all kind of taxes, okay. So the original ecosystem is preserved, and at least if they can't make, if there were 10 trees, so at least they should maintain it to the level of 10 trees or something. So if not 11 trees, okay. So it should be net zero. And if, for an example, in a big area of acres, any prominent location, whether it may be whatever, $1 billion or $1 trillion, the thing is that there are 5,000 trees, 50,000 trees they are replacing. So they definitely the onus lies on that guy. So, if that guy or whosoever that entity, it is like they're appearing for the exam. They're responsible for the result. Okay, thanks.
Thank you for your suggestions. So I'll just like to close the panel now. And I'm like to a kind of a student here, experts are sitting here. And the session name was how to create a financial suite of product for climate financing. If I would ask everyone, give us one suggestion which you like to see the capital market should be doing to promote more climate finance raising, what that suggestion would be. And if there's a critical gap you are seeing in the regulatory or in the exchange framework or MIA framework, please free to suggest us, I like to take that lesson with us and like to make it compile and do something on this. One critical gap or one thing you like to see in capital market to become hub of climate finance. Starting from Sri Lakshmi.
Sure. I think one very interesting suggestion that we could look at is looking at the demand side, right? And we talked about retail investors. 1 in 7 Indians have a demat account. It's a large base which we can tap into. If you look back about 10 years or so, there was a campaign that I think everyone remembers, Mutual Fund Sahi Hai, which really got on board a lot of retail investors. I think within a year, some 50 lakh retail investors came on board. The AUM went up by 33% and so on. So what if we look at a similar kind of a concept for ESG investing to get the retail investor participation going? A version of Mutual Fund Sahi Hai which goes into ESG investments, Mere Desh Ke Liye Sahi Hai. How do we get retail investors really excited about the proposition of investing in the right projects and right kind of funds, not just as an exclusion, not to say that this is I'm not going to invest in so and so sectors, but really understand that this is contributing to nation building, this is contributing to cleaner air for me, cleaner water for me, this is creating a world that is more livable for me.
I would look at creating a platform where green assets are aggregated so that the ticket size becomes acceptable to large pools of capital, plus some credit enhancement added to that so that the credit grade also becomes acceptable to large pools of capital like pension funds or insurers.
I think one thing is that get started. get started, it's already very, very late. And the second thing is our local pension funds and insurance funds have to become active. So I would say that that's the extremely critical step.
I think luckily for us, our capital markets are well developed. The only two things that I think we should change is there is the question about SROI versus ROI. We should, I mean, whenever we're looking at any kind of a green product, we should be able to give the investors the return that they would otherwise have gotten from any other investment. So I think we should move towards more of a project-based financing. And I think for the capital markets, what they should develop is to have that layer of trust being inbuilt into it, because green markets have failed once very significantly, largely because of the lack of trust in the Indian credits that were generated. So if we can inbuild that the layer of trust and somehow be able to reduce the MRV cost for the Indian the monitoring and the verification costs for the Indian projects, I think that will really boost a lot of retail investments coming into this. And last, obviously, as she very clearly said, asset aggregation. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. I think just a quick summary of our panel. I think we have definitely started the journey, Neha, to answer your question. And Sri Lakshmi, if you see the response to the municipal bond, there is oversubscription for very good issues. So there is reasonable awareness, but we'll surely scale up our awareness. Last but not the least, I think the equity in terms of green projects are seeing good momentum. The same momentum we have to add, like Aman said, for bonds also, by creating more good MRV framework or better standards. And most important thing I like to conclude with, I think, मैं हमेशा ये कहता हूँ कि if you are making good profits, you can do good also on ESG, and that target should always be there. And I think entire ecosystem should work how all the players should do well on the profit so that they can good on the ESG side also. Good is for good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for patiently listening, and thank you very much for giving the critical inputs. Thank you very much. I conclude the panel.
Thank you so much, sir, for moderating this very, very insightful session. And thank you to our speakers for sharing valuable insights with us. Now, before further ado, I request Dr. Harish Ahuja to present the mementos to our speakers. First, you'll be starting with the green certificate. Be presenting the green certificate to Shri Aman Mittal, IAS Joint CEO Mitra. And we'd also like to felicitate him and other speakers. Can we have the mementos, please? We're presenting the iconic NSE bell and the NSE coffee table book. Ji, हाँ सब. And now to the other speaker, the memento. Yes.
Next time you can just give a QR code.
Yeah, you say the paper cross, right? Yeah, how many bells we have now?
Can we have a group photo, please? Once again, we are truly grateful to everyone for joining us for this very, very invigorating session. Thank you so much. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be moving to our next session. We're going to have a dialogue, and the topic of this dialogue is climate transition in practice. how Indian companies are mobilizing transition finance through capital markets. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a kind request for everyone to please be seated right away as we'll be starting with our next session immediately. So ladies and gentlemen, we now move to a very special dialogue showcasing how Indian corporates are translating sustainability commitments into action and leveraging capital markets to support their transition journeys. We have here with us Mr. Gaurav Yadav, who is the Senior Manager of NSE. Can we have a warm welcome for him, please? And joining him, we have Sri Ananthan S., Head Treasury at Larsen & Toubro. Let's give a warm welcome. And with that, over to you, sir.
Hello. So, thank you, sir. Thank you for being here, first of all. So, from starting to till now, we had heard so many things, so many data sets were discussed, so many things were discussed. So, if I would state a summary and I would give a context around it, it will be the complete net zero story of India. So, as we can see that in our Paris Agreement under the COP26, we had agreed to be a net zero country. So for which we will be approximately, like including all the sectors, requiring around $10.9 trillion till 2070. So to start with, we, or you can say any department, any government entity, any sovereign or any corporate in India have their internal key targets to, you can say, mutually aligned to that broader vision of country as a whole. So for that, mutually, the government departments have developed different kind of phases for them. So there is one NDC phase, which is our nationally determined contributions, which each and every country who had signed under the Paris Agreement have to follow. Then there is a Viksit Bharat phase, which we, you can say at an India level, every sovereign entities had started with. And then there is a net zero target. So roughly you can say as a whole, the summary idea will be around to become net zero. And for that, capital market had facilitated us, like into the earlier discussions as well, like into the panel, and prior to that, it has been stated that capital market had, you can say, structured or created a few kind of instruments, and few are yet to be coming into for the market basically. Out of which there is ESG debt securities, which was you can say whose official circular was launched on 5th June last year in 2025, after which L&T was the first organization to issue its sustainability linked bond. So to start, you can say our discussion. So firstly, sir, how it came into your mind that L&T have to go for a SLB issuance. Like, what was the vision of your board when you heard that this news of like this circular came out from SEBI? How you structured it? Because I can understand that the circular came out on 5th June, and by 22nd and 23rd you were out with your issuance. So,
Thank you, Gaurav. And firstly, congrats to NSE and FICCI for organizing this event. And we should thank both of them for the opportunity given. At L&T, sustainability was ingrained for us. It is driven from the top, and this was something that while we were not thinking about from a sustainability linked bond perspective, we were actually thinking about raising some money that was required. And we thought, when the circular came out, it set us about thinking, why not raise a sustainability linked bond that will actually give a whole new direction for us. Then there is a whole new, push that the departments will have towards pushing towards carbon neutrality and water neutrality. These are two sustainability targets that we have set ourselves, and we have set ourselves to be carbon neutral by 2040 and water neutral by 2035. Much ahead of what the COP26 targets for India are. And it's a tough one for us, but we just thought, why not we make the effort and then try and push for it. And the circular came about, and we just thought, let's go for it, because it's sad for us right in the cusp of how we can push things and try and get it done, and bring about this awareness internally for us. Thanks.
So that's a great thing to be a part of something which is just at a foundational stage. So I think few questions will be also coming as a head of treasury team, and like from your board, you will be getting so many questions around, like because like from other organizations per se, if I see that there are so many questions around board regarding that how you will structure it, what will be the benefit to come out of, like whether you are neglecting that conventional, you can say bonds, when you are issuing this SLB, sustainability linked bond. So any like one or two questions which you feel that like other corporates who are sitting here can get a benefit out of it, which you had crafted, which you through which the board get convinced from your side, sir?
Sure, Gaurav, thanks. So the first question that came to our mind is how do we define sustainability, right? Because there are many different ways how do we define sustainability, and there's green bond, there's transition bond. There are many again different types of bonds. So the first thing we asked ourselves is, what is it that we should push for, and what is the sustainability target that we should set ourselves up for? And obviously, because we are in such diverse range of industries and businesses, for us, if we were to do a green bond, then probably we can do it in a particular part of the business, but not in the whole company. So hence we thought that it is best to. So we had a dialogue in terms of what is the best one to go for, and if you look at the whole range of options available, the one that obviously appeals the most and where we can have a company-wide push and result is really on the sustainability linked bond. And given all, and while there are many, again, when you go to sustainability linked bond, there are many parameters which you can evaluate on, and many parameters which you can figure out what to set your targets on. For us, again, we were looking at how do we focus on the key things that are for us environmentally sustainable, which will make our businesses environmentally sustainable. Obviously, cement and steel is not something that we control, but in all our operating aspects is something that we want to do. So we set ourselves for carbon neutrality into what we do, and water neutrality into what we do. Again, we have specific targets. We had year-by-year targets, and while we were tracking it, we didn't have any metric that sort of rewarded performance based on that. Now, as the previous panel said, whether there is a reward, whether there's a disincentive to do it is a separate question. But again, the whole point is about bringing in a certain reward or certain push to each of the businesses to get it done. And hence we chose the first question that came on was, what do we choose? And we chose sustainability simply because it can have a company-wide impact, and also because the use of proceeds is not necessarily restricted. Again, the one advantage, from a corporate perspective that we look at sustainability linked bonds is while you have a corporate-wide target, what really helps you is in terms of end use of proceeds, and the end use of proceeds can be a little bit diverse in terms of achieving your sustainability linked goals. So again, that is something that pushed us towards sustainability linked goals.
Nice, sir. That had, I think, the corporate setting here you can say, take a leverage out of it, what sir has just told right now. And they can also convince their board to reach out to them, that how L&T had incorporated this as a practice, and you can also follow out the same thing. So sir, now we had primarily discussed around the post-issuance things, that what you had did, how you had convinced the board, and all other such things during that phase, the assessment, the pre-assessment. Now sir, while at a time of issuing, when you were in a conversation with the arrangers of this particular issuance, so neither from the market or some advisors, whether you had received that question, which is very globally, you can say, renowned, and now it's a very big jargon as well, the greenium, what greenium we will be getting out of it. So I just wanted to know from your side of the story, because you had issued it, but once you are going to other corporates and you have a discussion around them, just simply into any other panel or any other conferences, we just hear this question out from so many people. So just wanted that the corporates who are and the institutions who are sitting here can have a question from your end side of a story, because you had issued it.
Sure. See, I mean, we look at greenium as a nice to have, not necessarily a must have. I mean, for us, anyways, we were going to raise money for our internal use. And for us, the key thing for us is how do we push internally? As we said, climate is an imperative that is going to continue. And we have set ourselves a target for 2035 and 2040. We need to go along that path, and we need to push the company along that path, with or without the kind of greenium discount that we look at. In fact, by putting a disincentive on actually not meeting the targets, we are actually pushing the company faster towards a more sustainable future. We look at it as not necessarily a discount that we should receive, but as something that's a nice to have. And there are all kinds of targets that we can set ourselves in terms of yearly targets, 3 yearly targets. We set ourselves a 3-yearly target because we believe that the journey is a continuous one. While the journey is a continuous one, it's not measurable in the next 1 year, 2 years. There are again, you can see all kinds of models that exist in the marketplace, both in India and abroad, in terms of having a 1-year target, 1-year pricing, etc. But we look at it as a 3-year target, and how the rate resets if there is a 3-year target. If you meet or don't meet the 3-year target. So on the specific question of greenium, it's a must-have. I mean, if there are, but we look at it, as the previous panel said, as accessing a much wider pool of investors, which otherwise will not be available. There are a number of investors increasingly. There are a number of pools of capital increasingly, which say that capital will not be available if you are going to be doing gray, brown, black, whatever it is. It's available only if it is green. We look at it as tapping that pool of incremental capital that can potentially fund us. And if those pools of capital provide us incremental or some benefits, then it's great. But otherwise, anyways, we will be continuing along the path.
Nice, sir. So we can note out that particular thing, that if you are if you want to do something under that large umbrella of sustainability, the greenium you can put inside and you can go forward issuing it and make your organization's goal under the large vision of India or your country or as a world as a whole. So coming next, after the issuance, we had talked about pre-issuance, where at a time of issuance question, now a post-issuance thing, that what all key things or key change things which you had seen or observed after issuing the, you can say, SLBs, are there requirement for more SLBs from your side? Because it was for a specific amount, specific quantum basically. So moving, if I can say that it was some, you can say 2 or 3% part of your sustainability targets. What about the remaining one? Are you considering it? How you're planning it? Whether your board is now more aligned towards having these kind of issuances further in future, or it will be that some other kind of interventions from the capital market or from the banking side you require a specific kind of instruments?
Sure. I think the greatest thing that happened is the whole acceptance, and the board was very pleased and the management was very pleased with the acceptance and the publicity that was derived out of it, and hence there was a natural push. There is still a natural push towards how do we push the envelope further. Now, having said that, we have not come to the market with a new instrument yet. So that was the last instrument that we raised from the market. So the next instrument that whenever we come up with, we'll definitely have a look at it in terms of, we'll have a discussion with the board. But the key thing to note is, what it did help is, push every person and every KPI in terms of also including some of this as a metric. Now, for us, post-issuance, this got highlighted internally, and for us, some of the units and divisions got included another metric for measurement at the end of every quarter or at the end of every year in terms of having the sustainability-linked targets for their respective. So what we did was we cascaded some of this into the sustainability team, cascaded this down to some of the units and businesses, and that features prominently in how they are measured and how each of them are evaluated at the end of every quarter or during the quarterly reviews. So to that extent, it definitely helps, and the management is also happy with it. The board is also happy with it. So as and when we come up with the next instrument, that is something that we can think of. We'll continue to think.
Definitely, sir. Definitely. That's a nice explanation to this question. So now moving forward, so like we had talked about all the issuance part, like the post-story, the pre-story, then what happened, what the decision story was. Now moving forward, sir, like capital market have to, you can say, give more kind of contribution towards that complete requirement. So as of now in NDC phase, we require somewhere around 166 billion year on year, out of which capital market is somewhere around contributing with 15 to 16 billion with few sorts of product what we have, which do include the municipal green bonds as well, and then now coming these SLBs. So we are also planning out with our green equity criterias. So supposedly we will give a green tagging kind of thing to our organization which are coming for their IPO, and same thing will be applicable after some time to the listed entities as well. So this is a part of our step, how we are moving forward, like developing new kind of products. And for the stock take of data, I think in the earlier panel, Dr. Harish Ahuja had talked about that we might be potentially collaborating with the FICCI or in coming time for developing BRSR Lite, which will be a kind of a very, you can say, with lower threshold kind of criteria for SME companies which have to report under the BRSR guidelines. So just we wanted to hear from your side. So like till 2030, we are coming out with this green equity thing. Any other instruments would you think that the capital market should come out, which can help in, you can say, facilitating more climate finance from this capital market per se side, sir?
I think the range of instruments that's available, I mean, honestly, Gaurav, my view is that the range of instruments that's available is sufficient. I think what the market lacks is really the supply of paper or the quality of, or the number of papers that come into the market. I mean, quality, I mean, whether it's, whatever be the quality, it doesn't matter, right? But the market is not fully tapped into all the pools of ESG or green or sustainability linked capital that has come. So to that extent, the more the supply of paper comes, the more the pool of capital will be available. The more the pool of capital which is already there, that's not been exhausted yet. So you can think about some of the more unique instruments, provided there is pools of capital available for those specific instruments. But sitting from where we are, even green as a concept, even the whole sustainability linked as a concept is something. I mean, green has been existing for a while, but sustainability linked bonds as a concept is relatively new, and it's only in 2025 that SEBI had come out with the guidelines, and that is something that is still, we believe, at least I personally believe that there's a lot that could be done to tap existing pools of capital that are already available, and it's quite large and it's varied. I mean, as I said, people sometimes necessarily look for greenium and some of the more discounts because, again, we at Treasury, sometimes we get measured by how cheap can we raise the finance. But if we look beyond and if we get the management buy-in to look at it as a nice to have, and but it's from the company's sustainability link perspective, it's a must-have. That is something that will help definitely along the journey.
Definitely, sir. So it's all about that. The structure is there, everything is there. Now it have to scale up, and the scaling up will be done by the organizations with the corporates for whom this product is crafted for. So, sir, the corporates who are sitting here, any kind of suggestion, any kind of idea which you would like to share, give to them, not about the ESG debt securities, but all the sustainable thing like available in the current market, whether it might be a banking side where the loans and like all the IFCs and ADBs where direct loan are being like in this particular segment being provided, whether you talk about the green loans, the sustainability loans. Here in the regulated market, you talk about the ESG debt securities, then coming with the green bonds as well. So what suggestion would you like to give to all the corporates sitting here?
Sure. I mean, we can talk about our journey. I mean, and the first thing that needs to be done is absolutely, setting, the management buy-in has to be there right from the top. As long as the management buy-in is there from the top and it is driven top down, it will definitely get done. That's number one. Obviously, it requires setting up of a separate sustainability division, which will take care of it from a central perspective, which directly reports to the senior management. So what we've done is we have a group sustainability officer and who has a team under them, and then there are sustainability people in each of the units and divisions. So it is important to have separate push right from the top. The second is, a lot of initiatives initially failed, or we've seen some of the initiatives initially fail because, again, there needs to be transparency. If it's measured and if it's measured in a way that's, that hurts some of the people's, whether it's bonuses, whether it's some of the incentives, that creates a negative perception and that creates a perverse incentive sometimes. So again, what really helps and is really improved transparency and a good governance framework helps in that. Talking about governance, we need to, again, what we did was establish a sustainability framework that will govern all our activities across the company. And of course, the fourth is to set goals which are reasonable, but again, are stretch targets. But it should not be targets which can never be achieved. What we did when we did this bond was essentially worked with the sustainability team to get targets which are stretch targets, which are push targets, and which are targets that we measure every year. So there is a path to reaching what the third-year targets are. But at the same time, these are not targets which either they can be achieved quickly, or these are not targets which cannot be achieved at all. Again, the thing is to find the balance between the two, and that is the art, that is the conversation that we need to have with the sustainability team as to what is achievable, what is pushed, and what is impossible to achieve. So so that they shouldn't give up in the first year or the second year itself.
That's a great learning from your side. From my experience, you can say organization side, who had implemented, who had crafted it from end to end, from starting from foundational level to end-to-end process. So now if any questions from any corporate who is available here, so which sir can answer. Yeah. Pass the mic to him.
The funds from this bond, whether it can be utilized for the activities for which Section 135 CSR list is there. One of them relates to environment, sustainability, those points. And if yes, because probably I feel that there is no regulatory bar to that. If this is possible, can it be really a nice way for most of the profit-making good corporates to use these bonds, to come up with these bonds and use either their profit or the bond proceeds to fill up the CSR-related requirements as per Companies Act?
See, we look at it as first, doing it. I mean, I don't know the specifics whether it can be used for CSR-related activities act, but I can tell you that, from a company's utilization perspective, it'll be defined by what first the type of bond is. For example, if you raise a green bond, it can be used only for financing green assets. If you have a sustainability-linked bond, it can be used for many other activities, and it'll be defined by what the prospectus or the circular says. So again, each bond if it is transition bond, it is again, specific to what the climate transition activities can be. So again, each of them has a specific end use, and it'll depend on the end use. But sustainability bond has the one flexibility. You can use it flexibly as you define in your use of proceeds. But at the same time, it has the ability for you to define corporate-wide goals and push it from a corporate-wide perspective.
Yeah, that is for sure. Suppose it satisfies your CSR-related regulatory requirements, then do you feel that it is a nice way to manage the CSR obligation, at least for well-profitable companies? Because probably in your case, of course, coupon is very attractive for borrowers.
See, I mean, coupon, I mean, again, as I said, we didn't, I would like to believe that there is no greenium discount that was given, because that was the rate at that time. But, again, it's unfair to everyone to be saying that we should use it for CSR, then, we're just pushing, something else into CSR, and CSR was meant for specific activities and specific this thing. So, it's not for companies to be, just being, let's say smart in utilizing the sustainability bonds. It should be used for what, pushing the sustainability agenda of the company. I mean, CSR is separate anyways, which is, there's a separate fund allocation for that. And that is a certain pool where you can do, and that's a very micro level, right? This, you're using it for company level. CSR you can use for what, I mean, communities, you can use for a number of activities. I mean, company funds are not something that you use for communities, I mean, in a normal course.
In a normal course, yeah. I was just thinking from the angle of treasury planning and management.
I mean, wearing my treasury hat, sometimes, it's not.
And speaking from the regulatory per se as well, as sir has mentioned that earlier as well, when you see, when you come for the approval of that particular issuance of bond, when you will come to us, we'll be clearly and very mandatorily observing that where the proceeds will be utilized. We know that there are different regulators. For the MCA will be the regulator for CSR thing. Now it is also if you want to do something in CSR, now we have the, you can say, perfect framework out for it. The MCA last week only had allowed the CSR funding to be utilized for the social stock exchange. So that you can do, but in here when the proceeds will be utilized, because it have to be also afterwards when it is going in the primary or either in the secondary market, it will be observed well with our monitoring system. So it will be observed and monitored afterwards of the issuance as well. So that thing what you mentioning, it need a micro level kind of a management, but it is not possible as per the current purview of Indian market structure. Yes, please if you can pass them on.
थैंक यू गौरव जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। एंड सबसे पहले तो मैं लर्शन टूब्रो को हृदय से धन्यवाद दूंगी कि भारत के अंदर लर्शन टूब्रो में जो काम किया है वो इमेजिन वाला है। अब क्वेश्चन आती कि व्हाट शुड द पैराडाइम शिफ्ट इन द लोकल लेवल। CSR funding, you have the best funding system for the sustainable, better water conservation, environmental conservation, energy conservation, climate change, carbon credit, or circular economy. I'm belong to Rajasthan, 36 policies now, 36 policies. My question is, why not to do one village, one CSR funding and one capacity building of the district?
Sir, for CSR, we have separate funds, and there is a separate team which looks at CSR. I mean, from a company perspective, we look at what the company raising is, and for CSR, right, there is a separate governance committee, there is a separate governing council, there is a separate committee which looks at how the utilization of funds is, and as with any corporate, each pool of it should not be one pool of capital and one person determining everything. So again, for CSR, there is you can certainly have a discussion. I will introduce.
This gives the economy of the
distinct economy of the state, economy of the country also.
No, absolutely, sir. Your point is valid, but I'm just saying that for CSR, I'll connect you to the CSR person. There's a question for CSR.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, I think then this panel concludes with the vision of that complete requirement, what we need to make our country net zero by 2070. The corporates like L&T and such other corporates who will come practice this SLBs and different kind of instruments which are not only available in the capital markets but around the market to facilitate this complete market will only hand in hand facilitate that complete amount of requirement. And as a you can say subsequent side of it, we will create some kind of reporting structure out of it as well. Like we have BRSR where we are monitoring all the non-financial disclosures on a time-to-time basis. So that's our part to do, but the corporate part, the side of corporate is to utilize all these kind of instrument. As sir in the very starting has, you can say, mentioned that under the large umbrella of sustainability, by you can say opting out all those key questions around greenium, when you will align to the vision of sustainability, it will always give an outcome which will be the betterment of the country as a whole. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that interesting talk. I now request sir to please present the memento to sir. The iconic NSE bell and the coffee table book of NSE. And that's our cue, ladies and gentlemen, for a very, very warm applause. That is the coffee table book of NSE, encapsulating the 30 remarkable years of NSE. Thank you. Thank you, and thank you so much, sir, for taking your time out for joining us. Thank you. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, moving with our final session. The topic of the session is nature-based disclosures, the TNFD framework and global best practices. As investors and stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen, it has been increasingly we are here to seek greater transparency on nature-related risks and the opportunities. Disclosure frameworks are becoming essential tools for informed decision-making. So to provide global perspectives on this evolving agenda, we are pleased to welcome Shri Tajeshwar Goyal, CFA, Head of Engagement, APAC and Middle East, Task Force on Nature-Related Financial Disclosures. Can we have a warm welcome for sir, please? Over to you, sir.
Hello. Hello. Yeah. So I know everyone's had a long day. I promise you, will be the next 20 minutes is going to be the most interesting 20 minutes of this. Oh, I will not say that, but very interesting 20 minutes. Hopefully of today as well for you. So I just need to take the slider. So I just want to start with a very important statement, and I think Mr. Prabodha also mentioned that statement. The resilience of your business depends on resilience of nature, right? And all our speakers today was, they were talking about that we had so much capital is being invested in nature and negative outcomes that we need to start moving capital to nature positive outcomes. And that's why it's very important to understand that resilience of your business depends on resilience of nature. Slider? Yeah. I just want to show you that slide so that you get the perspective that why I'm talking about it. What we're seeing in nature specifically is that we have huge invested interest to understand organizations' nature-based risks. Yeah. Yeah, so we have huge interest from investors to understand nature-based risks, right? And what we're also seeing that the huge amount of capital is being flowed, is being invested in nature negative outcomes, right? So if your organization is doing business with any sort of activity is related to nature, you have some sort of investors are looking at it. And that's the most important point of today's conversation, which I want you to remember until we reach the end of the presentation. We're also seeing that nature is directly being in touch with the financial markets, right? The financial markets is now pricing nature as a very important risk. There's a speaker this morning, he was talking about Tesla and how Tesla is doing innovative products. You know, I want you to focus on this red dot. This is Tesla stock price. In 2022, there's Tesla has a mega gigafactory in Berlin, in Brandenburg in Berlin, right? And every Tesla EV car uses about 2,500 liters of water, right, to produce that EV vehicle. So the conservation group and environmentalist in Brandenburg was already under water stress. So that area in Berlin was already under water stress. So they started protesting against Tesla, right? Overnight, the Tesla share price went down by 3.1%. So that is what happens when even a bigger company does not manage their water risk or does not manage their nature-based risk properly, right? Similarly, in India, you know, we have so many EV manufacturers. They need to manage their water risk because there is going to be a huge amount of investor pressure as we move forward. And if they don't manage the water risk, they will see it directly getting impacted to their stock price. I want to quickly, before I get into a bit more discussions on the case studies, I want to quickly share what TNFD is, right? The goal of TNFD is really to move capital from nature negative outcomes to nature positive outcomes, right? We are completely science-based. We have a TNFD technical framework. We also have a methodology which organizations use to understand their dependencies and impacts and then focus on their opportunities and risks. We have created that framework with most of the top corporates and financial institutions in consultation with them, right? Today, this is 733, but we have more than 780 organizations who have adopted the TNFD framework. They are now disclosing against that framework in order for investors to understand what nature-based risks are and what sort of dependencies and impacts do they have on their business and towards nature. This is the traction we have today. This is a 3-year-old organization. This is how important nature is as a conversation. Just in terms of India, right? We had great, speakers this morning. India is among the top 6 countries who is already reporting against nature through the BRSR framework. BRSR already uses most of the nature-based stuff, which is already part of TNFD within BRSR. We have 28 organizations who have adopted the TNFD framework, which has ITC Group, JSW Steel, Mr. Prabodha was here this morning, Tata Steel, Tata Power. We have Adani Green, Adani Cement. So a lot of different organizations have adopted the TNFD framework. Out of these organizations, 12 organizations already have a TNFD report, right? Whether it's a standalone report or an integrated report, the TNFD report is online. You can visit the website tnfd.global. You can find these reports. What TNFD intends to do, we do not want to create more work for organizations, right? So what we did was, we sat down with the CII Biodiversity Initiative team, and we created a BRSR TNFD aligned mapping, right? So if your organization is already reporting against BRSR, you can use that mapping to also report against the TNFD framework. It is really important to understand that TNFD is not about reporting. And I will explain you in the next slides why I'm saying that. TNFD is all about understand your dependencies and impacts on nature to your organization. And there are severe impacts. And I'm going to share you many examples today how companies and organizations are understanding these impacts on nature. The other thing I want to talk about is why are organizations implementing and integrating themselves with the TNFD framework, right? The first one is, as I already mentioned, there are new voluntary and mandatory requirements coming from regulators. As you may have heard, ISSB is now going to be incorporating TNFD within their ecosystem. We have already worked on BRSR TNFD aligned mapping. We are also working with other jurisdictions. I was just in Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Philippines, where they're also looking at TNFD at a very closer look. So there is going to be a massive push to integrate TNFD within their reporting cycles and understand your dependencies and impacts. So if you're consulting organizations, this is a huge opportunity for you. There is going to be a huge opportunity on TNFD and on nature as you move forward, as organizations start to integrate them within their business. Recognition that the resilience of business depends on resilience of nature. A quick example. There's a big company in Europe, and 80% of their revenue comes from their coffee business, right? 80% of that company's revenue comes from the coffee business. When they did the TNFD LEAP assessment, so TNFD has this methodology, it's called the LEAP assessment, it's the locate, evaluate, assess, and prepare framework. This document is available online on the TNFD website. So when they did this, did this LEAP assessment, so what will a coffee company do? They will go and locate their site where the plantation is, the coffee plantation. So their specific plantation is in Colombia, right? Then they started evaluating that plantation. So when they started evaluating that plantation, they realized, oh damn, our 80% of our revenue comes from this one plantation, and our plantation is under huge water stress, huge soil stress, huge heat stress, right? That's how you evaluated that specific plantation. Then you move into the assess phase, and you understand, okay, what do I need to do to now mitigate my risk? I've understood my risk, now I need to mitigate that risk. So they started finding new plantations to see, okay, how do I mitigate the risk of my revenue which comes from this one plantation? Then they started finding new plantations in Colombia, Vietnam, wherever. And then they reported all those findings in that prepare phase. So what did that do in return to them? They got more interest from investors, right? Their share price went up when they disclosed it and mitigated that risk. But the whole interesting part in this is 80% of their revenue came from that one plantation. So imagine if that one plantation, something happened to that plantation. So that's why resilience of business depends on resilience of nature. Investors now see nature beyond as a source of financial risk. I've already explained to you Tesla's share price 3.1%. Public news, you can Google it. Right? It happens in India. It will happen everywhere in the world if we don't manage nature properly. Because as nature risk and nature impacts will grow on the business, this will start to be financially material. And new commercial opportunities coming in, I will, just hold on to that. I will explain those commercial opportunities as we move forward in the presentation. There's another very interesting case study which I wanted to share. So let's talk about Taiwan, right? So you all use ChatGPT, Claude, AI, right? And all of that is dependent on microchips and semiconductor, right? And Taiwan produces about 70% of these semiconductors. And Taiwan is heavily dependent on water, heavily, for production of these semiconductors, right? And their dependence on water comes from these monsoons, right? They don't have any water other than monsoons, so they're heavily dependent on that. So in 2020, they had no monsoons. So what they did was they started getting water tankers for their business specifically, right? So their dependency increased on water tankers. And what happened in that result? Because they were dependent on water tankers and supply chain issues, their manufacturing went down by 7%. And just in that year, that specific company who manufactures these semiconductors, had a loss of 500 million US dollars. Direct impact of nature to your business. And there are many businesses in India, I can tell you right now, who's facing that direct impact. This is Tata Steel. So Tata Steel did a leap assessment. So they're very ahead. They're sort of a leaders in nature at this point. They did a leap assessment. I sat down with the CSO and I sat down with their sustainability team. Leave how they manage the risk. They manage the risk. They manage their impacts on the risk and everything. But see, their ratings went up the moment they start managing their nature-based risks. And that is how managing a nature risk can positively affect your business. They got new financing opportunities aligned with nature, and they're mitigating whatever the risks to their specific businesses. An Indian company managing nature-based risks in the best way possible. A perfect example. We spoke a lot about green bonds this morning, and I was like, I will also share something about bonds. So this bond is issued by this bank called Banco Bolivariano, right? This bond is backed by IDB, a development bank in Latin America. And what IDB requested the bank to do was to embed 2 of the 14 recommended disclosures of the TNFD. So TNFD has 14 recommended disclosures, similar to TCFD. TCFD has also 14. TNFD also has 14. We have 14 recommended disclosures. So the IDB requested the bank to embed 2 of the 14 recommended disclosures in that specific business, in the specific bond. So what did that result into from issuance to maturity? They attracted new investors just because of that. They avoided the greenwashing risks just because of that. And just see the positive impacts on nature. More than 400 tons of seafood produced according to sustainable certifications. 170,000 cubic meter of wastewater has been saved. And 130 tons of plastic and 1,800 tons of solid waste was recycled and reused. Just by embedding 2 of the 14 recommended disclosures of the TNFD. There are so many instruments which can be issued in India today just by using this framework. I met with ADB 2 weeks back. They are looking to finance nature-based solutions, nature-based instruments, specifically in developing markets. They are looking for these sort of new activities to do in India. Similarly, I feel many more organizations in India could be issuing these sort of bonds in the future. So this is a nature-based opportunity directly, just using the 2 of the 14 recommended disclosures, and this is the result which you can have, the positive impact on nature. So this is a real estate company in Singapore. It's called CDL, City Developments Limited. So they have done 3 TNFD reports in the last 3 years. And this is their LEAP framework, right? They started with understanding their real estate activities. It's a very big real estate company in Singapore. They started with understanding their real estate activities and the financial impact on their business. They evaluated all their 29 properties, all their properties in 29 countries. They piloted an EIA study for their Forest Woods location. And the very interesting bit over here, please hear this carefully. What they did was, after doing all of that, they wanted financing, right? So this chief sustainability officer of this company, I know her very well, she wanted financing, so she went to multiple banks in Singapore. She went to UOB, she went to OCBC, she went to DBS, and she pitched this project. She's like, I want to do this, right? UOB told them X amount of interest rate. OCBC gave them X amount of interest rate. DBS gave them the best competitive advantage on the interest rate with a discounted rate in the basis points, right? Discounted rate in the basis points. Why? because they aligned themselves with the TNFD framework. They created a microforest within their buildings, and that helped them gain about 700 million US dollars of sustainable linked loan aligned with the TNFD framework. Straight away benefits to your organization, straight benefits to your organization. So if your organization is looking for financing, SLL, we all keep talking about climate SLLs. If your organization wants financing and looking for SLLs, this is the best product for it. You align yourself with nature, you understand your dependencies and impacts, you create opportunities. 700 million US dollars worth of funding, and there are banks who are willing to fund. There are banks. DBS did this. There is a bank in Malaysia, CIMB. They are looking to do it. There is a bank, UOB in Singapore. They have done the nature-based framework. They are looking to do financing. There are banks to do it. They are looking for opportunities to finance nature, to finance project towards nature-positive outcomes. This is a very interesting one. So we're all hearing about VC firms investing in climate projects. This is a VC firm based in the US. It's called Superorganism, right? It was started like 3-4 years back. They started with investors' money and they told investors, we'll do a pilot project. So they invested in 19 companies when they opened the VC firm, right? In the last 2.5 years, they went from 19 to 35 companies, right? They're investing in the area of automated insect farming. They're investing in the area of microbiome, forest. They're investing in the area of 3D satellite imagery and technology, nature-based technology, nature-based solutions. And what does this tell us? This just tells us that biodiversity is investable, right? We should never think that only climate is investable. Climate is part of nature, right? If we think from a broader landscape, nature is much bigger, right? And the reason I'm giving you all these case studies is because I feel everyone can relate to these case studies and understand how these nature-based opportunities can come in India as we move forward. But opportunity is not just about creating new commercial opportunities. It is also about that coffee example I mentioned of managing your risks and mitigating your risks, right? And that is why I said resilience of business depends on resilience of nature. Very, very important to understand. So, you know, I give you all these examples. I'm going to take some questions later as well. But I want to share something with you very interesting. All that I've told you in 15 minutes, right? We have partnered with the Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative, who has partnered with NSE to host a training for 4 hours to give you a detailed review on TNFD, right? This will include the methodology, it will include case studies, it will include everything what TNFD has and specifications. And to do that training, all you need to do is go to this barcode. It's absolutely free of cost. It is a 4-hour training on 18th June 2026. I'm going to come back to this barcode, but I'm just going to quickly share what the training is all about. The training will be about why nature is relevant to your organization. Understanding what sort of resources are available on the TNFD framework. Understand how to identify your nature-based risks and manage those risks as you move forward, and how to make the disclosures, right? See, please don't think that this is another reporting framework which has come up and you have to do it and this and that. Don't think like that. You have to think that this is really about organizations, understanding your organization's dependencies and impacts. And that is why organizations like Steel, ITC, Tata Steel, all these organizations are working on TNFD, right? There are Cipla, Apollo Tires. There are so many different companies who are working on this in India. If you talk about globally, we have Qantas Airlines, we have Heathrow Airport, we have CDL, which I just mentioned, UOB, United Overseas Bank, we have ANA Airlines, Macquarie. So many organizations globally are working on this TNFD framework to really understand your dependencies and impacts and to manage those risks which are to your organization, and then create opportunities for your organization. So you will also get a certificate if you join this training. So I would kindly request you to at least, take a picture of the barcode, or, register through the barcode. You can forward this training to your colleagues, to your co-workers, to your clients, whoever you want to. It's a 4-hour training. It's going to be done by Sustainable Stock Exchange in collaboration with the TNFD. And I'm thankful to NSE for kindly hosting this online. So please do take a picture of this barcode, and yeah, and if you found this, like, my session useful and interesting, so please do join the training. I'm pretty sure that you will also find the training interesting. So yeah, so with that, that's about it from my side. So, but I'm happy to take a few questions if you have any for clarification, or yeah. Yes, sir.
Startups for who have got concepts in sustainability. In sustainability, pure
Absolutely.
sustainability. Like you mentioned something about the $700 million grant, which
So $700 million is a sustainable linked loan to nature that this company has got, right? What you are talking about, this VC example I want to mention, there are many VC firms who are actively funding climate and nature-based projects.
what about sustainability?
Yeah, a part of sustainability is the same thing.
Oh, yeah,
So within sustainability, climate and nature-based projects, many VC firms in India, there are, if you just Google it, there are many VC firms who are funding these sort of focused projects, either towards energy transition, waste management, water, through water recycling, different products, even nature tech, as I mentioned to you, just automated insect farming, satellite imagery. So many VC firms are doing that. If you just Google them, you'll find a lot of them, even in India and globally.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Chamber of Commerce, Jaipur Chamber of Commerce, Udaipur Chamber. One link with the Chamber of Commerce and make a 4 hours training, online training program.
Absolutely. Do you have contact?
Yeah.
Yeah, reach out to me.
Okay. Thank you.
Why don't you invite them to this training?
Okay.
Just send them this barcode. It's open for everyone.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. This is the best because this training is very well organized. Please send them this barcode.
Because recently I also have online training on the climate risk by the United Nations group.
Yeah. Please send them this barcode. Everyone's welcome to join the training to really understand about TNFD and nature-based disclosures. Any other questions? Perfect. So I hope the session was useful, and please do get in touch if you want to learn more. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much for that invigorating presentation. I request Mr. Gaurav Yadav to please come forward. He's the Senior Manager of NSE, and I request you to please felicitate, sir. Thank you so much. And I request Gaurav sir to please come forward to present the vote of thanks.
So thank you everyone. Jessie ma'am is sitting here, sir is sitting here, Abaji is sitting here. So everyone, you can say, this event, we had thought of organizing this event on World Sustainability Day because as a capital market MII, our vision is also allied toward, you can say, towards the objective of all those key things which the government of India has also been targeted. So as in we have to come in hand, we have to do all kind of, you can say, interventions, whether it might be creation of few kind of financial instrument which is allied towards the sustainability big cause, and all together we have to work together hand in hand with other institutions as well. And this is a step, this is a part, like on year, you can say month on month basis, NSE is also facilitating all the listed entities with like developing their C-suite executives green capacity. So we in collaboration with IFC are also doing some kind of events to give them knowledge around the GSS plus and transition bonds. And then there are subsequent trainings around all other specific key things as well. A few time back for the TNFD as well. So this market is being developed, the structures are there. This is just about to scaling it up to a larger pace or to a larger audience. And the event like these on, you can say, key days which are allied towards environment or sustainability will be a specific part of it. Like in very last, I would like to thank all the participants, all the key senior dignitaries, and everyone who had came today here and give their precious time towards this cause. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
And with that, thank you so much. But ladies and gentlemen, also let me tell you that the lunch is served, and we request all our guests and dignitaries to please go to the F&B area and enjoy your lunch. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and have a great day ahead. Thank you.